So, I have a Patreon, which you may or may not be on. But if you aren't, you can go there, and it's a good way to support me and enable me to make all types of content. And if you are flush at the moment, because we're so back economically, and you're in the $100 tier, you get to request every month a bespoke piece of content, something you would like me to talk about, something you would like me to address, or maybe it's an interview you would like me to do, or whatever. And within reason, I'll go out and do it. Now, full disclosure, because if you're watching this will be linked on the Patreon. Maybe you're someone who isn't a $100 tier, or you're thinking about going up to there. I've been pretty tardy on them. I will add, some of them have been ridiculous. I've had requests to review a Tesco Super Savers chicken tikka masala. And it's like, how would I even do that? I've got to set up the stream and set up the camera and sit there and record it and go, yum, yum, and eat it. And then I'm like, review, brah. I've had people say, oh, will you go and do a food eating challenge at a small obscure cafe in Wales or something, like eat the belly burster burger? And it's like, yeah, I'm not really doing that. I'm socially anxious about eating in front of people at a good time. I don't think I'm ready to step into the world of competitive food eating for YouTube. But all of that said, I get in touch with those people who make the requests and go, look, I'm sorry, I'm not really going to do that one. And we do try and move through it. Other ones have been perfectly reasonable, like the one we're about to do, and I just haven't had time or the inclination, and I'm just being a piece of shit and taking the money and not living up to my promises, which, it's the irony isn't lost on me. How I got my breakout story in 2010, 2011 was doing that. It was writing about people who made promises on Kickstarters and then didn't deliver them. We've come full circle. So I apologize if you're one of the people waiting for the content, but rest assured I'm going to work through them in 2025. We're going to clear them. Q1, we're going to be on top. We're going to be so back. So I'm going to start with this one. This is from Jerky's Minion, and he has requested for a video on the legacy of Mike Tyson. Wait, I'm saying it's Jerky. Was it you, Mouse? I've written it down wrong on my notes. Okay, it wasn't Jerky, but Jerky's still great. It was Mouse64. Right, well, Mouse64 is a long-standing patron on the stream. And why would he ask me about this? Well, a few of you know, I used to box. I used to do it a lot as a very, very amateur. And then rugby kind of took over, and I was more focused on that. But, I still used to go down the gym and hang out. I used to be around that world when I was living in Middlesbrough. I used to go to a boxing gym. It's no longer open, called De Niro's. De Niro's did produce some pretty decent fighters in the Northeast and was at the center of some controversies relating to some crime. But so you can go and look this stuff up. But, Cornelius Carr, for instance, was a boxer that used to spar regularly in De Niro's and what have you. So it's something that I've always been interested in. I lament the days of great boxing. I miss boxing when growing up in the 80s and 90s, boxing was fucking insane. Not just heavyweight boxing. British middleweight boxing was fucking insane. There was a time in middleweight boxing in Britain where you had, anyone could have been a world champion. You had Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, Steve Collins, fucking Robin Reed was on the come up back then. It was just a great sport. It was before the takeoff of MMA and the UFC in particular, and it was the first ever time I paid pay-per-view. It wasn't for football, it was for a boxing match. So I used to love it. I used to love it when Prince Naseem was fighting, and his fucking walkouts used to be longer than his fights. So I've watched a lot of boxing. Love the history of boxing, love the history of the sport. It's something I've talked about on stream many times. And so Mouse64 has asked me if I wanted to sort of do a video on Mike Tyson and his legacy. And it's quite a interesting topic because for me, I wanted to split it up. I wanted to talk about his legacy as a boxer, his legacy as a role model, and ultimately the lessons we can learn from what happened to Mike Tyson. It was kind of tough because I wanted to think about how I would divide it, because ultimately I think his boxing legacy, while important, and the media bullshit and him being viewed as a media figure is important. I think actually the most important thing about Mike Tyson is the lessons we can learn from what a tragic figure he is. And I think Mike Tyson is a tragic figure. I'm going to say some things over the course of this segment, which will be quite long and exhaustive. I spent a couple of days getting everything ready for it. I'm going to say a few things that not everyone's going to vibe with. Like, for instance, I am absolutely convinced he is innocent of the rape conviction. that he took. And I'm going to explain why and demonstrate why and show you why other lawyers feel the way I do. I am going to attack the media and show you the repulsive and repugnant reporting about Mike Tyson, including how ESPN, when his daughter died, wrote an article confirming the death publicly and then filled it with paragraphs about how he was a drug addict, even though she didn't live with him at the time of the accident. And I'm also going to ultimately say that there is a powerful lesson in Mike Tyson and how his life went for anybody that is a coach or anybody that works with young adults. Because young adults need mentorship. They need guidance. And very often in functional families, that will come from your parents. If it doesn't come from your parents, it can come from uncles, like me. That's, my uncles were all very important male role models for me growing up because my dad was in prison. So if you've got a functional family, you've got that benefit. If you don't come from a functional family, if you live in very impoverished circumstances, that mentorship has to come externally. And you can make a difference. If you are one of those adults who are invested in the betterment of young adults and children, and you can give over your time and your expertise and your care, you can truly yield great results. One of the most rewarding thing about my time in esports is I know there were a lot of young people that came into this space that wanted to be journalists, and I trained them, and I hear from them all the time about how they got the job that they wanted because of me, and they put me down as a reference, and you just get little digital postcards from all the great, they're living great lives now, and I've made a small contribution to that just by nurturing that talent and paying attention to them and being invested and being present. And when somebody who has that loses that, it can be like so fucking disruptive. And that's what happened to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson lost his mentor after finally finding a father figure, after not having one. And having a terrible childhood where he was arrested repeatedly, his mother turning tricks and him having to hear that stuff in a house full of kids with not enough to go around. Mike Tyson grew up as poor as you can imagine an American can grow up. And not only that, I know this from having a ex-girlfriend who was a social worker, having to listen to strange men come into your house and have sex with your mother and things like that. This is very damaging and destructive to the psyche. And so he got out and he found somebody who cared about him and saw his talent and wanted to channel that anger and that rage against the world into something positive, which is another great thing for combat sports, another great thing for boxing. Sometimes you want to punch the world in the face. Well, the great thing about combat sports is it will let you punch someone else in the face and do it in a disciplined manner. It can be a great outlet for all of that anger, because at the same time you're expressing the anger, you're learning discipline, you're learning self-worth, you're learning value. It builds you up. And as your anger at the world dissipates, your self-esteem goes up. If you ever see young angry kids, some of the best things you can do is get them in a boxing gym, honestly. I know that from experience. So, Tyson is a really tragic figure. He has been treated unconscionably by the media. He's been exploited by people in his orbit. He's been, in my opinion, wrongfully imprisoned. And the world wanted him to be a monster when every instinct in him was to fight that. And I love the version of Mike Tyson we've got now. I love this mellow, high, fully actualized, fully realized, humble ex-warrior that just wants to dispense peaceful wisdom. And it's why I don't like him being next to boxing. I didn't like it when he came back for his exhibition match against Roy Jones Jr. I didn't like him being involved in this freak show fight on Netflix. It's just, boxing isn't good for him anymore. And boxing hasn't been good to him, honestly. So I like him eating a fucking edible, going on a podcast and telling stories and living his life out and realizing he isn't the demon, he isn't the monster, he isn't the villain the world painted him out to be. And long after he's died and long after his passing, Mike Tyson, I hope, is remembered as one of the most unfairly maligned, misunderstood sporting figures in history, because he's as much, in my eyes, a hero as a Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali had incredible charisma. Muhammad Ali had warmth and presence, and he had principles, and he was a titan among men. Mike Tyson will tell you he's not cut from the same cloth, but Mike Tyson really had one of the worst starts in life that you can have, and yet he's gone on to be a huge success in the sport, a huge success in other areas, an inspiration to people that want to emulate his path. He's also a really funny guy. He had a speaking engagement. He had a series of speaking engagements in Vegas where he was talking about his boxing career. It was fascinating. I truly, truly love and admire the man. And I think he's the greatest of all time. I think, as I said, Ali is the rarest of things. Ali was a king among men. But I think Tyson, prime Tyson, 20-year-old Mike Tyson, I think he would have destroyed anybody. And Mike Tyson's too humble to say that and says Ali's the greatest. I think a lot of boxing fans no longer hold that opinion. Anyway, so we can start. We'll start with the boxing. That's probably the easiest thing to really talk about and kind of analyze. And I guess the first thing we should really talk about is the kind of why Mike Tyson is a phenomenal boxer. I can tell you why he's a phenomenal boxer. Mike Tyson has a physique that really shouldn't have made him a good heavyweight boxer. He's 5'10", I think he was like 220, 225 at kind of the peak of his powers once he filled out. But what Cus D'Amato, his long-standing trainer and the mentor that sadly passed away and pretty much subverted his life into, for the worst, because that's when Don King and the entourage essentially takes over. Cus D'Amato was able to identify that Mike Tyson, because he's small but had such power, we could create an entire style around him. And this has been called the peekaboo style, I'm sure you'll have heard. I also think it's called the D'Amato slide is another term that's been used for it in boxing gyms. But I just want to quickly show you, this is just a 44-second video of a very young Mike Tyson. I want to say he's probably 17 in this clip. It might be 16. I think it's just after he won the amateur Olympics in 82, Junior Olympics, I should say, rather. Just see this style for yourself and how Cus D'Amato is essentially creating this style, which is for his strength.
D'Amato continues to be one of the foremost fight managers in the business. His stable of past pugilists includes former champions Floyd.
Mike Tyson, weighing 210 pounds, has an exceptionally good record. He had maybe a dozen fights in the Junior Olympics Championship, and he knocked out every fighter he fought to win the national championship twice. Tyson not only has a very hard, terrific punch in either hand, but he has developed elusive qualities and has the most important quality, the will to win. He has the desire to win. He wants to be the best.
One of the things that I love about Tyson's style, like prime Tyson's style, is Mike Tyson, his movement, it's such an underappreciated quality. People talk about his power. People talk about his chin. People talk about his left uppercut as being one of the most legendary punches in all of boxing. Certainly, if he caught you with it, it was more often lights out than it wasn't. But it's his movement. And in the same way that a smaller fighter, like Mayweather does this incredibly. Mayweather can stand in front of you and dodge you like Neo in The Matrix. You simply cannot hit him. Tyson can do that too. His lateral movement is so quick.
Former champions for
Mike Tyson.
This is the important part. It's movement with intention. It's not just an evasive head movement, right? It's about moving his entire body so he can get into a position to do you harm. That's what's so good about it. It's defense to set up offense, and this is what he does. And this is why they call it the peekaboo style. Because now now you don't see him, now you fucking do. And also just naturally, when you're smaller, you have to, because your power comes from your hips essentially. Your hips. It's not a lot of, if you stand static in your punch, you're not getting it in. You've got to really get all your body into it. And so what he's able to do from these peekaboo positions down here is he's coiled like a spring. So, you know, he's got his full articulation of his hip, his leg, and all of that power kinetically going into the arm as he comes through and connects. And obviously, if you've missed a shot, your entire body is open. Body shots from Tyson, as you'll see in some of the highlights I'm going to show you, are absolutely fucking lethal. You know, like you cannot imagine how hard he is hitting some of these fighters, particularly when he fills out. This is 210 Tyson. He gets bigger. It's insane. His physique, his musculature, for someone of his size, is unreal. Like a physical specimen almost to perfection. But anyway, again, just to show you, because you will
Mike
see
Tyson,
these training moves
weighing
in some of the
210
fights.
pounds, has an exceptionally good record. He had maybe a dozen fights in the Junior Olympic Championship, and he knocked out every fighter he fought to win the national championship twice. Tyson not only has a very hard, terrific punch in either hand, but he has developed elusive qualities and has the most important quality, the will to win. He has the desire to win. He wants to be the best.
So, just a fantastic, prodigious talent that was trained to maximize the most of his potential in terms of what he was lacking, because it was obvious he was going to have to fight in the heavyweight division, and at this time, the heavyweight division, I mean, guys, like, I'm going to show you some fucking monsters. Like, they make Tyson look like a midget, and yet Tyson is able to just manhandle these people. I'll show you, this was his 1982 Junior Olympics fight, aged 16. He fought a much bigger fighter in the form of Kelton Brown, and this is just up there on YouTube. Not a lot of people have actually watched this. This is him essentially as a child, you know, like not a professional. One of the biggest weird things that happened in his career is he didn't make it to the Olympics. He actually lost in the bouts, in the heats. He didn't get through to the actual Olympics for real, but he won the Junior Olympics in 81 and 82. And so when you will understand how much potential he had when you realize he's 16-year-old in this video.
There you see the statistics on Kelton Brown. He definitely has a height advantage and a reach advantage. He is going to have to use every bit of that because thus far, as Harvey just told you, Mike Tyson has not gone the distance in any of his fights. He is being looked at, and there's been a lot of noise now being made about this young man as a possible Olympic prospect and a possible professional champion in years to come. He is also being helped, trained by Cus D'Amato, the former manager and trainer of former heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson. In the blue corner, you are looking at Kelton Brown, and I understand, Harvey, that some people are talking to Kelton about possibly playing football too.
15 years old, 6'6", 210, and with his athletic abilities, what do you think? I'm sure a lot of Texas recruiters looking at his house.
Before they start out, Tyson has a great overhand right. Brown carries his left hand low. We'll see whether the two match up.
Let's see, experience versus inexperience.
Now Tyson ready to come charging out. Brown's plan is to try to stay away from him.
The referee is giving a warning to Tyson at the very beginning for something that he did. I think it was push.
There's a right hand.
There's a left.
A right left combination.
He's got him in the corner. He's working on him. That head goes up. He's going down.
Another right cut to the body by Tyson.
Very, very strong boxer, Tyson. Very, very strong.
Brown has taken some vicious punishment and held on. He's still in there.
I don't think
There's another right by Tyson. That's right.
He's giving it. Towel's coming in. Look at old Tyson jump on the ropes.
That is it. They threw the towel in.
Threw the towel in. He didn't want to see his boxer hurt.
I think the towel hit the canvas about 35 seconds into the fight.
Look at old Tyson. He's rolling on the ground with joy.
And it was as simple as that. That's how he won the final. You know, his corner just fucking threw the fucking towel in. They said, holy shit, this is just fucking there's no way we're letting our fighters go the distance with this guy. You know, he's a 15-year-old kid at the end of the day. So, I mean, you can maybe argue that's premature. He had no chance. He had no chance. And it's good when corners look after their fighters. Anyway, that's a 16-year-old Mike Tyson. You have to understand, when we talk about raw talent, all of the attributes, the only thing you could say about Mike Tyson is he's too small to be a heavyweight boxer. But as I said, with the training video you saw, and I'm not really doing it justice because we got a lot to get through, but because D'Amato and all of his trainers, they absolutely were able to create a system for Mike Tyson that would ultimately maximize his potential to win fights. And, look, it's one of those things. Tyson proves size, it just doesn't mean shit. Strength, technique, the will to do it. Mike Tyson had all of those things. So we get to Mike Tyson obviously going professional. And Mike Tyson, as a professional boxer, his record is absolutely fucking outrageous. And I'm going to show you some of the fights that he had. But first, we'll just take a quick look at his record, just so you get an idea about what this young guy was able to do once he went professional at 18. And a lot of these fighters have been consigned to the history books. You'll see they don't really have their own Wikipedia entries. This is quite typical of boxing. What you do is when you go professional, you don't necessarily, if you've got a prospect, you don't throw them in with other prospects right at the start. You bring in the journeyman because they've got to learn the trade, but also you don't want to risk your asset. But I want you to look at what he was doing in these fights, okay? TKO, first round. TKO, first round. Knockout. Fourth round, TKO, first round, TKO, second round, knockout, third round, knockout, first round, knockout, first round, TKO, first round, knockout, first round, knockout, TKO, first round, knockout, first round, TKO, second round, TKO, first round, TKO, first round, TKO, first round, TKO, fifth round, TKO 6th round, and these are in the longer fights. These are like the 10-rounders. This is when they start pumping it up and he's starting to fight real fighters. Knockout, 10 round. Unanimous decision, and then unanimous decision. I want to just quickly tell you about the Mitch Green fight, and let's get the Mitch Green highlights up. Mitch Green had talked a lot of shit about Tyson, and he was a member of the gang. And I think they were like an offshoot of like the Bloods, but it was called like the Black Spades is what they were called. And Mitch Green was basically a gang member who said like, Tyson ain't shit. If he come in my hood, I'd fuck him up. Right? And so Mitch Green was a big, strong fucking dude. And he like had a boxing career. Like he was like, because he could just handle himself. No finesse, but just a big, strong guy who could fucking wail on you. And so the story goes, the reason this fight goes the distance is Mike Tyson could have knocked him out anytime he wanted, and he knew that after the first round. And so what he did was he wanted to fight him for all 10 so he could hurt him. He said that's what he's always maintained. He said, I could have put Mitch Green away anytime I wanted, but I wanted to go 10 rounds to fuck him up. And so if you look at the highlights from the Mitch Green fight, I'll let you be the judge.
Here on HBO, that between Larry Holmes and Michael Spinks. Round one, Mike Tyson right on top of Mitch Green.
Just as expected, Mike.
Just to quickly highlight, I mean, look at how big Mitch Green is as well. Like, Tyson went into the ring with monsters all the time. There was nowhere to hide in the heavyweight division. Everyone he fought was usually taller, reach advantage, much heavier, but he would just close the distance, peekaboo, and he would just fucking hurt them. He would just get up close and personal. It was what Tyson did. He was absolutely fearless.
Tyson comes out like a locomotive, going straight for Mitch Green. That was working for quick tillers.
Remember, this is only the first round. It's a very up-tempo first round. Good uppercut there by Tyson. And shots to the body.
This clinching by Mitch Green is going to frustrate Tyson because it has a tendency to really frustrate a fighter.
Good left hand by Tyson.
Also, Mitch Green has a bad habit of leaning back. Watch the left hook of Mike Tyson land. Every time Mitch Green moves backwards. He shouldn't be inside with a fight like Mike Tyson. Tyson's arms are shorter, so he's able to throw quicker shots. There's the left hook I was talking about. Those short shots, Barry, are very effective. You notice that there is no mouthpiece in Mitch Green's mouth. He was knocked out by a left hook.
To Green's credit, he hasn't taken a backward step. Whether that's wise or not remains to be seen.
You notice time and time again, that left hook and those little short shots.
Come on, Drake, step back. I told you, stop holding and punch, man.
And he did draw a warning from Luis Rivera, the referee, about holding. Green's in trouble.
Those shots to the body is taking his toll. Really working. A lot of body, a lot of leverage. The body shots. Watch for the left hook. There it is again, Barry.
As advertised, inside of 10 seconds.
That hook is getting shorter, more powerful, and more effective. The uppercut's working beautiful for Mike Tyson also.
That was a good round for Mike Tyson. A very impressive round.
1-2, time up. Don't fight him inside.
Yeah, don't fight him inside.
1-2,
Yeah.
jab and jab. Move this round. When you get inside, Blood, stop fighting his fight. Move this round, throw the 1-2, and time up.
When Blood Green was a gang leader, they say he had over 100 men in his gang. Right now, he needs some of them.
And again, Mike Tyson.
Boxing commentary undefeated as well.
You know, the last fight that Tyson had against Tillis, and what a shot. That is an awesome shot.
That was just a jab. You have to appreciate one left jab. And the mouthpiece is gone once again. Those little inside shots is really busting up the mouth of Mitch Green. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was blood inside the mouth even between rounds, as we mentioned. You can't help it. He's breathing through his mouth.
Barry wants the left hook. Well, it reassured him that he is a conditioned athlete. He can go 10 rounds, so there's no need for him to slow down the momentum. Both hands. Good left hook, solid left hook. Green now waving up to his corner to let him know that he's okay. But he's steady dropping that right hand, and the left hook of Mike Tyson is very, very effective.
That was another big shot right there by Tyson.
He's starting to really become very loose with his head. Slip punches.
Big right hand.
Big, and that wobbled Mitch Green for a second there. The reason you tie a fighter up is to at least clear your head, or either to throw off his timing.
Well, just how hard Mike Tyson hits can be learned in talking to some of the people he fought.
Look at here.
Just laughing at him. And Green seems to me, Ray, to be doing all the wrong things.
That's very good body movement by Mike Tyson. I'm impressed with that. No breathing room, no punching room. Good, beautiful uppercut.
Left hook, right uppercut. Another big left hook.
Come on, let it go. It's not wrestling. Boxing.
I mean, Tyson there, good uppercut.
What an
Beautiful.
uppercut. Just straighten Mitch Green right up.
Come on, let's go. Watch your head. Watch your head.
The absolute engine on Tyson as well. To fight like this for the full 10. Like, just kept walking forward. He's getting tied up by Mitch Green. Mitch Green's gone. Like, he's got nothing left. He's just treating him like a heavy bag here. It's just like, I just get to tee off any shot.
That was another good shot to the ribs by Tyson. Tyson said one time, he said, I understand anatomy.
Here again.
Oh, what a left hand.
What's going to happen as Tyson gets further and further into his career, he's going to figure out a better way to approach fights like this. Those shots to the body, I love those body shots. They really do a number on a tall opponent. When the crowd come here to see a fight, boxer, puncher, and it's been pretty much of a dance for Mitch Green. I'm sure Mitch Green is going to be disappointed in this performance.
And we come to just about the end of it here. Another day in the classroom. Big left hand to end things.
Judge George DeGabriel observed the fight 8-2. Judge Pat Dolan watched it at 9-1. And Judge Georgie Colon observed the fight 9-1 for the winner. For his 21st straight win in as many fights, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson is 19 there. Mike Tyson is 19 years old. He hasn't even won his first belt yet. He is just 19 and just fucking built different. And so, while I could show you a ton of his knockouts, I mean, I could. Like, I got the video ready. I just think there's one fight you really need to see if you want to understand Tyson. Like, after this, he beat Joe Frazier's son, Marvis Frazier. He beat him. He beat Reggie Gross, Marvis Frazier, Ribalta, the Cuban. These are all decent. But this is when he wins the world. This is when he wins the world title against Trevor Berbick. Now, if you know anything about Berbick, he just got the belt the fight prior to this. Berbick was like a Jamaican fighter. He was a big, strong, good fucking fighter. And this was considered like, you know, oh, this will be a fucking test. Like, there's no question about it. This is going to be a tough one. I want you to watch this fight and just understand, like, this was meant to be, oh, this is the crucible for Tyson. He's fighting for a belt. He's only 20 years old. Youngsters, you know, you don't win a belt when you're that young. He's a phenom, sure. Berbick's been around the block, wily competitor, big, strong. This is going to be a tough fight.
Both of you, now listen. If you get in close and I tell you to break your stop punching and step back clean. Any question from the challenger or chief second? Any question from the champion or chief second? All right, let's get it on. Come on.
All right, and with the words of Mills Lane, we're ready. I don't know about you folks, but
look at how much of a monster Berbick is. Like, look at Berbick. Look at him. Like,
and let's watch how quick Tyson will jump on Trevor Berbick. His whole life has been for this night. But Trevor wants to prove that he's one of the great champions. Let's see how long his reign lasts. Mike Tyson kind of feeling him out here, but he goes with that right-hand lead right away. You get the idea now that Berbick is showing a little false bravado here. Standing toe-to-toe is not the way. If he doesn't pump that jab in the face, Tyson will come right through him. Tyson with the left, bounces it off the forehead of Trevor.
one of the things I always love in a Tyson fight is the first punch that connects, because then they realize the power this kid has. You see it every Tyson fight. I've watched all of Tyson's fights, back to not his recent freak fights, obviously, but his real fights. When that first punch connects, they all start out thinking, he's just a fighter. He's just a fighter. When the first punch connects, you see the face change. They go, fuck this. They know they're in hell. And you'll see it. You'll see it again. Just pay attention to it. There you go. It's, yeah, this isn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. Yeah, Tyson ain't shit. Yeah, that wasn't so bad. Bang. And then watch. Look at his face. Holy shit. Holy shit. Little club to the back of the head there.
He's taking big chances with Tyson, not feeling him out at all. This early going in round one, a lot better than we thought it might be. Trevor came to fight. But this is exactly what Tyson likes. Notice that Berbick is standing directly in front of him. That is, a left hook that really got him. That is disaster for all of the opponents of Mike Tyson. He's standing flat-footed right in front of him, and he's going to get clipped. Believe me, folks, he's going down. It's great that he has the courage, but this is a poor fight plan. Oh, the right hand gets him behind the left ear. Berbick tries to push him off. Not the way to keep him up. Notice the lazy left. Watch Tyson load up with left and right. He knows that he can score now. Mike Tyson to the right of your screen, shorter, heavier, younger, and bolder than Trevor Berbick. Berbick has felt the wrath of the right and the left hands of Mike Tyson in what just in round one. Tyson clips him with a light left that time. You get the idea that Mike, as soon as, right hand, but the left hook right there. Notice Tyson throws him in twos and threes. Trevor is getting lazy with the left hand.
And Berbick's not even throwing punches at this point. He's like just thinking like, how the fuck do I survive?
That's a fear factor. He's away from his bravado in the early going of this round. Tyson having a good first round. Wow, with the uppercut, misses the left hook. Tyson is in total command in his head. He knows he can beat this guy right now. Notice Trevor not doing anything right now. He doesn't want to be in here with Tyson. He needs to use his 7 inches in reach, and you can't use it when you're head-to-head like this. Now the left should be pumping. Instead, Tyson will walk right through it. See this? Tyson walking right through. He's wild with the
Just made him miss.
Tyson clips him with the left hand. Look at this. Combination. And Berbick ready to go, but he stays on his feet. Another right hand clips him. He can't take shots like this very long. Wow, with the right hand is Mike. Again, he's got. Catches him with off foot. Trevor's ready to go again. Tyson knows that he can score at will now. Berbick doing nothing like he did against Bigland Thomas. Fighting in the wrong position. Not using the jab of the bell end. Round one. Round one.
Who are you kidding, son?
Well, at least Berbick didn't go down in the first round, but he's been staggered. Let's listen into the corner. Notice the replay where Tyson is getting through with the right hand, the left hook. He throws punches in bunches. And I learned that line from Angelo Dundee, who happens to be working with Trevor Berbick.
Angelo Dundee, yeah. Another great trainer.
You see him staggered, you see the legs ready to go. Make no mistake, Tyson is in command. This may not go very long because he's got tremendous confidence now. Tyson already off his stool, his Trevor Berbick. This is round two. The WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. Trevor Berbick and Mike Tyson. Tyson goes to work right away, and he's got Trevor in trouble, and he's down. He'll have to take the standing 8 count as he steps right up the counts to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and he says he's okay. Mills Lane lets them continue.
He's okay, guys. He's gonna make it.
He can hurt him anytime. Left hook, right hand. Again, Trevor hanging on, but this is a defensive mode now. Trevor not trying to do anything offensively. Tyson has him under control. Left hook right, watch for the uppercut. There it is. Didn't land, but he has the idea. Wow, with the right hand is Mike. Mike throwing caution to the wind. He's in total command in this fight right now. We're only in round 2, and the heavyweight champ already reeling is Trevor Berbick. You know, Mike Tyson gets fined $5,000 for wearing black trunks. He is the challenger here tonight, believe it or not. He looks like the champion right now, and it may not be too long before he wears that belt. Wild on the break, and Mills Lane warns Trevor about it. Trevor trying to do all he can, but what he's not doing is holding off Mike with the left. And you see the light left hook by Mike in the right hand. Mike knows he can hurt him. He had him down once in this round, wants to drop him again in a hurry. Usually what Tyson does is take that little dip, come with the uppercut.
Like, just wrapping up his arms every opportunity he gets.
Right side of the rib cage. Instead he goes to
Oh, no.
Two good rights in there. Caught a bit of a camera switch there, and another right hand landed. See Mike just parring. He's trying to line up that right hand, and he'll be right behind it with a left hook. Mike doesn't throw just one punch. When he gets a guy in real trouble, he usually knows how to finish. Look at these shots. All landing to the head of Trevor Berbick. It's just a matter of time before Mike gets the clean shot. Berbick hanging on like Mitch Green did. Bone crusher Smith. Straight jab.
Jab just straight through his guard there.
20 years old Mike Tyson on his way to becoming one of the youngest heavyweight champions of all time. Bang
An absolute classic. An absolute classic. You gotta love it. When the mind is willing, but the flesh is weak, guys. Like, just absolutely fucking jellified. And by the way, like, you know how you hear about Tyson the Monster and everyone always brings up the Holyfield ear biting thing and all of this stuff? Obviously, like, this is still in the good time. Tyson's only 20 years old here, youngest ever heavyweight boxing world champion, a record that still stands today. He's straight over to Berbick to check that he's all right here. There's no animus.
For the corner of this guy, Mike Tyson. Let's watch the finishing blow. Crushing right hand. Wow, with a left hook, then a right hand right in the temple bone, and he's in trouble here. He reels backwards. That's the very first knockdown of the fight, and he's able to get back up, and you saw the punches that landed. He misses that uppercut, but notice it's all Tyson. Berbick doing nothing offensively.
You see there how, you know, they always tell you keep your elbow up, so if you miss with a fist, you catch him with the follow through. You watch there.
But notice it's all Tyson. Berbick doing punches that landed. He misses that uppercut, but notice it's all
there it is.
That landed. He misses that uppercut, but notice it's all Tyson. Berbick doing nothing offensively.
And you know, he smashed his head off the back of the canvas there as well. It's like it's a deceptively brutal knockout there. Not even in Tyson's top 10 knockouts, probably, by the way. But that's how he became world champion at the age of 20 years old. Like, it's just ridiculous. He was a boy. He just went in there with men and he just fucking destroyed them. He was just a king. It's why I always maintained, like I say, for me, purely on boxing, the greatest, simply the greatest. His career should have been actually so much more than it is, even though I'm saying that he is the greatest. Now, anyway, just to kind of quickly get ahead, he wins the belt here and holds on to it, unifies other belts along the way by beating the likes of, you know, decent fighters like, you know, Michael Spinks, and this is the famous one where everyone's seen this one in the TikTok shorts. This is where he beat Larry Holmes as revenge for Muhammad Ali. Basically, if you don't know the story there, you can actually, there's another wicked documentary about it in the ESPN 30 for 30. But just to give you the Cliff's notes, Muhammad Ali, like a lot of boxers, he hung on too long, and Larry Holmes fought an aging Muhammad Ali who had like kidney problems and just wasn't up to it. Larry Holmes beat him. It was actually really horrible, and like Larry Holmes was even saying to the ref, like, please call this fight, I'm beating up an old man in the ring. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. But the ref wouldn't call it, and Ali, being Ali, he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't let his corner throw the towel in. So Larry Holmes had to put this fucking beloved sports figure, he had to put him down. You know, it's what they say, legends die hard, you know what I mean? And fucking Larry Holmes will always be the guy to generations of people who idolized Ali, who beat up an old man. You would never have beat Ali in his prime. By the way, you wouldn't have beat Ali in his prime, but that's just not the way boxing ain't always like that. You know, as I said, the old get fed to the young. And not that Larry Holmes was particularly young. He was just younger and stronger than Ali. Anyway, he had to live with that. He was like a reviled fucking boxer because of it. And Muhammad Ali knew Cus D'Amato, and he got to meet Mike Tyson. And he said to Mike Tyson before the fight, get him for me. Just whispered in his ear. Mike Tyson fucking killed Larry Holmes, man. He held nothing back. But yeah, so you have all of these great fights, and then we get to the Tokyo Dome. The Tokyo Dome is where it all goes wrong for Mike Tyson, and realistically, this is kind of where we stop talking about the boxing. The Buster Douglas fight. Again, I'm not going to take too long to talk about this and play you the video of him losing the fight. It's been done to death. It's one of the biggest sporting upsets in all of history. Buster Douglas was like a fucking 100-1 like underdog. It was never meant to go the way it went. But by this point in his life, I believe Cus D'Amato had passed away. Tyson was already coming unglued. He had this huge entourage. He had people like Don King in his ear, and Mike Tyson was starting to spend his money. Mike Tyson was starting to become the Mike Tyson we know from the media, the icon. And basically, he ended up going out to this fight and just not training, not preparing. He was drinking. He had gonorrhea during this fight. He said his dick, this is his own words, his dick was dripping the whole fucking fight. He was in so much pain, he couldn't take a piss. And he went into this fight, drained, his dick in pain, fucking hungover, and he got fucking clapped. He got clapped by Buster Douglas after a terrible fight. He might not have won on points if he didn't get floored by Buster Douglas. There was a slow count earlier in the fight, which a lot of people will point to, but it wasn't a great show, and Tyson should have put someone like Buster Douglas away, and he didn't, and it cost him everything. He lost all of his titles. I don't even think Buster Douglas retained them. I think he lost them all in the next fight, if memory serves me correctly. It's been a long time. Anyway, when you are a unified champion like that and you lose like that, there is a bit of a hard reset. And so anyway, he did go back and he beat Henry Tillman, who's like, an Olympic gold medalist. These were the fights that really showed you there was still plenty of juice left in the Tyson tank. In 91, he fought 2 fights back-to-back with fucking legend Razor Ruddock, right? Another tough, big, hard man. And fucking Tyson won them. First a TKO, then a unanimous decision. There were 2 great fights. But you're going to notice, suddenly, we've got a gap. Suddenly, Tyson doesn't seem to take a fight for 4 years. And that brings us to the unfortunate incarceration of Mike Tyson. Now, as many of you, I'm sure, already know, Mike Tyson was convicted of rape, and he served 3 years in prison for it. I have always been someone who believed in the fact that even if you didn't believe he was innocent, you would absolutely have to arrive at the conclusion that Mike Tyson deserved, at the very least, a retrial. I would argue a mistrial, because he had an incompetent defense. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the overall trial. I'll show you the History Channel, their recounting of what happened, and then I'll get into the particulars. This is just a page, just nice and succinct to explain what happened. So basically, former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson was accused of raping an 18-year-old beauty pageant contestant, Desiree Washington, and was found guilty by a jury in Indiana. The following month, Tyson was given a 10-year prison sentence with 4 years suspended. In 91, Tyson met Desiree Washington at a rehearsal for the Miss Black America pageant in Indianapolis. Washington accompanied Tyson back to his hotel room, where in the early hours of July 19th, Tyson raped her. Tyson claimed the sex was consensual. The world-famous fighter was indicted by a grand jury in September of that year and convicted in February 1992. In March, he began serving his term at the Indiana Youth Center near Plainfield, Indiana. He was released after serving 3 years in March 1995. And so there's a few things to kind of note about what happened here. And again, these are deeply unpopular things to say, but for me, they are fundamental truths. There was a lot of stuff, for instance, that wasn't allowed to be entered into the trial. First of all, let's start with the defense. Don King recommended the lawyer, and the lawyer wasn't a big trial lawyer. He never defended anyone against a murder or a rape or a violent crime beef. Specifically, what they did, usually at trial, was business and taxes and contract law. But Don King said, use this lawyer. He's a friend of ours. He'll do everything right by you. And this lawyer was staggeringly incompetent in the trial. including, by the way, as I'm sure we'll read when I go into the Dershowitz assessment, he put Mike Tyson on the stand himself, and that enabled the prosecution to essentially cross-examine Mike Tyson and ask them relevant questions. And I do believe, if memory serves me correctly, the trial wasn't televised or anything like that. But one of the questions he was asked is, do you like women? And Mike Tyson said, no, they're all bitches, which unsurprisingly didn't make a very sympathetic jury. Also, worth noting, the foreman on the jury was a white crew-cut ex-Marine in Indianapolis. Black guy accused of rape. Listen, I'm saying he was having a tough old time with the jury as well. Anyway, his defense was incompetent. Then there was also the fact that the prosecution was able to get the judge to agree to keep specifics away from the trial, which certainly are reasonable requests. But for instance, Desiree has accused other people of rape. There was one instance where she accused someone of rape, and then she later recanted and basically said she did that because she was nervous because her dad was very religious and she didn't want him to think she was having relationships with men. So she had previous like that. The jury wasn't told that story because it was deemed not relevant. What I will say is, there was forensic evidence. I don't want to be too graphic here because we're on Twitch, but there was forensic evidence that a medical expert testified to, saying that they have only seen the type of vaginal tearing that would come from consensual sex 2 times out of, I believe it was 1,000 cases. And so that again made the jury believe the idea she was raped. I mean, look, if I'm a defendant, I go, so you admit it's possible then? That's what I say is a lie. So you admit that it's possible the vaginal tearing could have been consensual? Yes, you would have to admit it. You've already admitted it's possible 2 times in 1,000. This didn't happen. So Tyson did not get a good defense. Don't just take it from me. Let's go to Indianapolis Monthly. They brought in defense attorney Mark Shaw to write an article going over all of the facets of the Mike Tyson rape trial. Now, ordinarily, with an article like this, I wouldn't necessarily read it all. You can see it's quite a saga. But given that this is a $100 Patreon request, we are gonna do it. We're gonna get into it. It's important that you understand all of the facets of the trial, because if you understand the facets of the trial, I do believe most reasonable people will arrive at the conclusion it should have been a retrial or a mistrial. We'll start with the hiring of the lawyer I just told you about. Promoter Don King's decision to hire the 60-year-old Fuller, whom the East Coast media characterized as a tough, no-nonsense attorney, sent shockwaves through the Marion County Prosecutor's office. Tom Green, a well-known D.C. lawyer, called Fuller one of the most skillful and respected defense attorneys not only in Washington, but in the country. Against such intimidating credentials, Prosecutor Jeff Modisette and his hand-picked prosecution of Garrison and Barb Trathen knew they faced a dogfight, especially when Fuller hired respected Indianapolis attorney James Voiles to assist him. Coupled with Modissette's belief that Tyson's celebrity status helped the boxer's cause and that date rape convictions proved difficult under any circumstances, most observers thought the jury would acquit the ex-champ in less than the 77 minutes required for William Kennedy Smith. But from the moment Fuller allowed Tyson to appear before the grand jury in August, the defense team embarked on a game plan filled with ill-fated decisions and questionable strategies. Review of the trial record indicates that at least 15 critical mistakes led directly to Tyson's conviction. Foremost was the choice for defense counsel. While the famous Fuller seemed to give Tyson an imposing advantage, his background made him an illogical choice. Fuller defended Don King in a Philadelphia tax evasion case. King apparently thought Fuller pulled off a miracle in winning an acquittal, so when Tyson was indicted, he summoned his savior to the fray. So in other words, hey, you got me off that tax law thing. How you can defend my boy on this date rape thing? Yeah, 2 different pillars of law, of course. Setting the stage. At 9:19 on January 27th, 1992, Marion County Criminal Court Judge Patricia Gifford said the magic words, State of Indiana versus Michael G. Tyson, cause number blah, 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 and the battle was on. The trial promised to be unusually graphic since the ex-champ was charged with sexual acts not usually discussed in everyday conversation, including oral sex and the use of the finger to stimulate arousal. It could be all very embarrassing to both Tyson and Desiree Washington. One wonders what the prospective jurors thought of all of this as they sat waiting to be questioned. All of them, though they tried to avoid eye contact with Tyson, literally gawked at him when he wasn't looking. Tyson himself looked as if he wondered where the hell he was. He sat as if in a daze behind his counsel, doodling on a pad of paper as he watched proceedings that could take away his freedom and destroy his career. For 2.5 laborious days, the judge and the attorneys asked question after question of the potential jurors, trying somehow to determine their sensibilities. This is what they call, what is it voir dire? Where they do, this is what they do in America. I think it's called voir dire. It's like jury selection. You know, you pick up, because you have to, the defense and the prosecution get to essentially ask questions of the jury to see who's suitable and who might be sympathetic, and everyone gets a pick and all that. So anyway, that's what they're doing here. One man was forced to admit to imminent bankruptcy. Another revealed his wife was raped by a black stranger prior to their marriage. One admitted that many of his co-workers would describe him as hateful. Another said he had to attend counseling classes because of an arrest. Most, however, said they would not be embarrassed to discuss female genitals or vulgar language if need be. A telling moment occurred during this process as Fuller and the other defense lawyers stood in a circle around a table covered with juror questionnaires, looking uncertain. Upon observing the confusion, a Marion County deputy sheriff commented, "Too many cooks." Indeed, it appeared from courtroom observations that the highly trained professionals used a helter-skelter what do you think approach in picking the jury. While the selection process is often a crapshoot, Fuller and Company's choices proved costly. Without the active participation of Voiles or a jury selection expert, as in the William Kennedy Smith trial, the lawyers seemed to guess at who might be pro and anti-prosecution. Nowhere was this mistake more glaring in the decision to leave juror number 9 unchallenged. This ex-Marine stuck out like a landmine as a potential foe for the defense, both by his background and by his conservative responses during questioning. Leaving this man, the only one who took notes on the jury, reminded trial experts of famed attorney F. Lee Bailey's disastrous decision to leave an Air Force colonel on the jury that convicted Patty Hearst. I actually have F. Lee Bailey's book, The Defense Rests, on this shelf here somewhere. It's an excellent read. Great legal anecdotes from one of the great trial lawyers of America. Do recommend it if you can pick up a copy. I think it might be out of print at the moment. Anyway, that military man ended up controlling deliberations, as would number 9, who exhibited his ability to take command by passing out breath mints to other jurors during the trial. Perhaps overconfidence dissuaded Fuller and Company from worrying too much about jury composition. As in the Rodney King LAPD case, in which the prosecutors left 3 ex-security guards, the brother of a retired LAPD sergeant, and 3 National Rifle Association members on the panel, the defense seemed uninterested as a pro-prosecution jury formed before their very eyes, adding to Tyson's growing list of handicaps. By 11 a.m. on January 29th, the 15 jurors, including 3 alternates, had been selected. 25% were black and 75% were men. 5 important pre-trial matters awaited decisions from Judge Gifford, starting with a petition by the defense to exclude a Wish TV tape containing an inflammatory Tyson quote. Gifford granted the exclusion, so the jury never heard the ex-champ say during an aside at a press conference, "I should have killed the bitch when I had the chance." Now, just at this juncture, before we read on, I do want to add, Mike Tyson, at this phase in his life, having lost Cus D'Amato, having got more money than God, having been this unbelievably flattered figure with a terrible entourage around him that were dragging him down to the lowest common denominator, Mike Tyson wasn't in a great place, and he wasn't a great person, and he certainly didn't have great attitudes towards women or humanity in general. That isn't what he's on trial for, but unfortunately, that's what got him convicted. If they'd heard that, that would have been a disaster. The fact that his own defense introduced the possibility of him saying something like that is also a disaster we're going to get to. So the testimony begins. The state opened its case by calling one of Washington's hotel roommates and several Canterbury hotel employees in an effort to reconstruct the evening's events. The witnesses included Virginia Foster, the limousine driver who chauffeured Tyson around Indianapolis and who drove Washington back to a hotel after the alleged rape. Asked about Washington's demeanor when she returned to the limo after the alleged attack, Foster said her hair wasn't as neat, she looked frantic, in a state of shock, dazed, disoriented, couldn't focus, and she seemed scared. Fuller's impersonal style put him at odds with Foster from the start. Because of an alleged personal incident involving Tyson, she testified that he lured her to his hotel room, tried to touch her, and then exposed himself. Foster obviously bore a grudge. Fuller, however, never seemed to recognize his need to discredit this testimony. Time and again, openings occurred in which Fuller could have grilled the witness. Instead, he allowed Foster to step down without a scratch. And the faces of the jury seemed to indicate that some questioned Tyson's alleged invincibility. The next witness, emergency room physician Dr. Thomas Richardson, said Washington had 2 small vaginal abrasions, consistent with 20 to 30% of the injuries seen in sexual assault cases. This testimony in itself was critical, but then he made the statement that may ultimately have decided the case. When asked by Garrison whether he had seen such injuries before, Richardson calmly replied he'd only seen it twice in 20 years, and he'd only ever seen such abrasions, only twice in 20 years had he ever seen such abrasions following consensual sex. This evidence hit home, since jurors always want to believe a medical expert if possible. So you can immediately see the disconnect there. The abrasions happen in 20 to 30% of sexual assault cases, and then Tyson's defense said, well, have you ever seen it? And he went, well, I've only seen it twice. So you just don't ask that question and you're fine. 20 to 30%. Oh, there you go. 1 in 3. Oh, okay. Fuller's lack of nimbleness during cross-examination was no fluke. Though he'd represented such notables as John Hinckley Jr. and junk bond king Michael Milken, his reputation came mostly from federal court white-collar cases for tax fraud and bribery. He simply wasn't familiar with the rough-and-tumble county criminal courts and lacked recent experience in sex crime cases. He couldn't locate exhibits. He fumbled his delivery. He exhibited a lack of knowledge of Indiana law and generally handled Tyson's defense more like a first-year law student than a seasoned pro. Theoretically, his only task during the case was to show that Washington consented to have sex with Tyson, which would be a bulletproof defense against rape charges. But instead of concentrating on this point, he pumped witnesses for testimony concerning Washington's knowledge of Tyson's bad boy personality, the boxer's continuous use of crude sexual innuendos, and a dubious behavior in accompanying him to a hotel room at 2 a.m., all to further the idea that she knew what she was getting into. Ah, yes, the she's no angel defense, very popular with women. Unfortunately for Tyson, reminding the jurors of his uncouth behaviour probably took its toll. When the trial began, all 12 seemed in absolute awe of the man who rose from the Brooklyn slums to become the heavyweight champion of the world. That is, until the defence began dismantling the wall of celebrity, brick by brick, in a misguided attempt to show that Washington must have known that Tyson wanted sex. The defence called witness after witness to testify about their clients' lewd remarks and crude behaviour during his encounter with the Miss Black America contestants and even with Washington herself. Pageant contestant Tanya Traylor, for instance, recalled that everything he said had sexual overtones. He asked everybody out, she said, and if he got a no, he moved on to the next girl. He talked about taking girls back to the room and that a kiss will do, but sex is better. At the pageant's opening ceremonies, Tyson's irreverent conduct continued, Traylor testified. When another contestant asked him about the size of his hands, Tyson made a suggestive remark about what his hands could be used for, she said. The defence thus pounded the ex-champ down until the jury began to see that he could be guilty. That, coupled with Tyson's disastrous performance on the witness stand, stripped him of the aura of invincibility. Amazingly, Fuller spent little time on questions that might have given jurors the full story of what happened in room 606. Washington, testifying for the prosecution, offered a lengthy account of the events of July 18th and 19th, how Tyson called her around 1:45 a.m. to tour the city, then picked her up in his limo, took her back to his room. They made small talk as they both sat on the bed. Then Washington testified they had the following conversation. "Do you like me?" I made him more like Michael Jackson there, maybe don't do the voice. Tyson asked. "You seem okay," she replied. Then his voice changed a bit, Washington testified, and he said, "You're turning me on." "I'm not like that," she answered in the hotel room. Then she testified he put his hands up to his face, and she stood up saying, "I want to use the bathroom, and then we'll leave." "Okay," Tyson said. Then Washington got up, leaving her purse behind, she testified. After using the bathroom, she said she noticed some discharge on her panty shield. Washington said she removed the liner and threw it away. "I had a pad in my purse," she said, but figured I could put it on later. When she came out of the bathroom, Washington said she saw Mike Tyson sitting on the bed with nothing on but his underwear. Tyson then pulled her to the bed, pinning her down and raped her. "He was mean, evil," she said. "I got on top and started to try to get away, but he slammed me down again." Fuller faced a tricky problem when he began the cross-examination. In a sex crime case, the defense lawyer must remember that whether true or not, the witness tends to believe what she says. Therefore, it is essential he question the witness carefully but vigorously for inconsistencies. Fuller, however, never challenged obvious problems in Washington's story. Why did she remove her panty shield? How did Tyson perform oral sex on her and keep her pinned to the bed? If Tyson is one of the strongest men in the world, where were the bruises on this 108-pound woman? Fuller also did not take advantage of Washington's propensity to provide more information than requested and to speak much more rapidly when put on the defensive. Twice the defense attorney failed to see that she became defensive when confronted with an inconsistency, and his failure to follow up let Washington off the hook. Through their actions, before and during the trial, Fuller and company provided the jury with more ammunition for Tyson's conviction than Garrison and the prosecution could ever hope for. But the worst was yet to come. Defense attorney Voiles sat like a caged tiger at the counsel table during the trial. Several times he had to hold his tongue and resist rising to Tyson's defense when Fuller or co-counsel Kathleen Beggs failed to object to Garrison's often objectionable behavior. Apparently, Voiles knew from day one that he would have little to do during the trial. His partner, Dennis Zahn, declined to take the case for just that reason. Instead, Voiles quarterbacked the local defense effort, then added his name when Chief Counsel Fuller filed motions with the court. Many times during the proceedings, he glared at Fuller when the Chief Defense Counsel ignored testimony or failed to object. During Garrison's final arguments, Voiles' instincts took over for one moment when he rose to make a proper objection. Fuller looked at him as if to say, "Jim, I'm the lawyer here, sit down." And reluctantly, Voiles did. Now look, you've all seen the lawyer movies. One thing is true, because I do know some American lawyers, some American trial lawyers, and they do say, like, you've got to object. You've got to be throwing out objections as a matter of fact. This is just standard practice, that if something sounds objectionable, you object. It's as simple as that. And the fact that a supposedly experienced trial lawyer not only wasn't doing it, but he was getting his co-counsel not to do it as well, again, it screams of incompetence. And now we get to the ominous part of the trial, entitled Tyson Speaks. Which, remember, Kuz is dead, he's off the rails, he's losing it all, his life's in shambles, he hates women. Put him on a stand, I guess. Many felt before the trial that the most important issue was whether the state could present a strong enough case to force the defense to put Tyson on the witness stand. But to the surprise of everyone, Fuller announced in opening argument, he will tell you. Meaning, of course, that Tyson would testify. Some observers wondered whether Fuller uttered those unfortunate words mistakenly. Whatever the reason, he boxed himself into a corner with the jury. True to Fuller's promise, at 2 minutes past 4 p.m. on February 7th, the ex-champ took the stand. Fuller then asked a series of questions, so leading that Gifford scolded him for his blatant behaviour. Nevertheless, the testimony offered a glimpse of Tyson's early life along with his version of the events of July 18th and 19th. But then he dropped an A-bomb on his own defence by recounting what he had said upon first meeting Washington. "I explained to her that I wanted to fuck her," he said. To Fuller's question of why he would use such vulgar language, Tyson testified, "That's the way I am. I just want to know what I'm getting into before I'm getting into it." When Tyson said the infamous F-word, it seemed that a bolt of lightning struck the jurors' faces. They had heard of his lewd behaviour and language, but that was second-hand. This was Iron Mike saying the word. Added to the disaster, Tyson, against most accepted legal doctrine, had testified at his grand jury hearing months earlier. During this unfortunate encounter, the transcript for which gave Garrison a huge advantage, Tyson said he used the word, "I want you." Now he claimed he used a much more direct, "I want to fuck you." Moreover, he said Washington's responses, "That's kind of bold and sure, just give me a call," never changed, While such a reaction might have followed, "I want you," it seems absurd after the second statement. Tyson paid for his mistakes during Garrison's cross-examination. Uneducated and unprepared with his grand jury testimony staring him in the face, the usually agile boxer took a pounding from the crafty lawyer. The mismatch became obvious when Garrison grilled Tyson on the boxer's failure to mention the F-word to the grand jury. "Are you telling the jury you failed to tell the grand jury about using the F-word? That it was just an omission on your part and it really happened? You really did say that?" "I said I wanted Desiree, yes." You said to Desiree Washington, 18 years old, just graduated from high school, "I want to fuck you," and she said, "That's bold, call me." "No," she said, "that's pretty bold." I said, "Well, that's the way I am. I want what I want." I said, "I just want you to know that's where we stand." She said, "Sure, call me." Garrison thought so much of this point that the last piece of evidence heard by the jury before the judge's final instructions was a tape of Tyson's grand jury testimony, during which he obviously didn't say, "I want to fuck you." Tyson's credibility suffered severely. It is difficult to understand why his attorneys didn't bring up this obvious discrepancy themselves during their direct examination of the client, either to explain it away or soften the blow. Besides this fiasco, Tyson also erred badly when he described Washington's behavior in the hotel bathroom after the alleged rape. Tyson, who said he was lying on the bed, testified, "I was watching her. She had underwear on. They were polka dot. I thought they were flowers. They looked like flowers then, but they were polka dots. She was in the mirror doing her hair, a little dance like phew, 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 doing her hair." He then stated that Washington became incensed when he refused to accompany her downstairs to his limo. This portrayal differed greatly from that of Foster, who said that only a few minutes after the alleged attack, Washington came down to the limousine crying with her hair a complete mess. The jurors' reaction to the Tyson explanation of this important point and others seemed one of disbelief. Thus, Tyson, the witness, proved to be his own worst enemy. After the cross-examination of Tyson, the defense called another retinue of friendly witnesses. Tanya St. Clair Giles, a pageant contestant from Illinois, said Washington described Tyson as really built, with a butt to hold on to. But another contestant, LaShawna Fitzpatrick, inadvertently jolted the defense during cross-examination by Garrison. Asked how Washington appeared when Fitzpatrick saw it on July 20th, the witness said Washington looked like death. Jurors numbers 2 and 5 both turned and looked squarely at Tyson for a reaction, but there was none. The testimony ended at 1 minute past 2 p.m. February 10th. Sometimes a trial becomes known more for the evidence that wasn't prepared by either side. History will show that this trial produced little testimony about the rape itself. Instead, the jury had to decide the outcome of the case based less on facts than impressions. Just 10 minutes before Judge Gifford said the word guilty 3 times, one for each count, Tyson sat by himself, head bowed, at the defense counsel table. With the courtroom jammed to capacity, Tyson's counsel failed to accompany into the courtroom. The ex-champ appeared downcast. Regardless of the verdict, that sad picture of Tyson alone became etched in everyone's memory. After the first guilty from Gifford, Tyson's head cocked to the side as if he'd been hit with a hard right. He whispered, "Oh man," and slumped in his seat. Gifford then asked Fuller if he wanted to poll the jury. He said yes, then waited for the judge to do it as if the procedure in federal court. Only a nudge and whisper from Beggs moved him to get up and ask each juror, "What is your verdict?" And thus Tyson was forced to hear 12 straight guilties from the jurors. At 10:53 p.m. it was all over. Tyson was now a convicted felon, facing up to 63 years in prison. No one can say for sure that, with different counsel, Mike Tyson would have been acquitted. Perhaps Fuller meant well, but he was out of his element. Maybe Tyson's new attorney, Alan Dershowitz, will come to the rescue. The 53-year-old Harvard law professor's passion for the downtrodden made him famous for taking celebrity clients, including Klaus von Bülow, Michael Milken, and Leona Helmsley, and tough cases. That could explain why, over the last 20 years, 57 of his appeals reportedly produced only 9 clear-cut victories. Dershowitz himself recognizes his role in long-shot cases, once telling ESPN that he comes into cases as a coroner doing an autopsy and then tries to bring the patient back to life. At sentencing, Gifford imposed 10 years, 4 of which was suspended for each of the 3 counts, all to be served concurrently, plus the maximum $30,000 fine. With 6 years to serve, Tyson could be released in 3 years with good behavior, though he would have to continue on probation. So, Iron Mike might gain freedom before he turns 30, and perhaps resume his boxing career. On the other hand, if he misbehaves in prison, he could stay there until 35, when his career potential will be gone. Once Gifford ruled out on the matter of bail, Tyson stood up and gave his jewellery and wallet to Fuller. Camille Ewald, his foster mother, gave him a hug, and the ex-champ was escorted by Marion County Sheriff Joe McAtee through the back door of the courtroom toward the sheriff's office booking station. After being searched, fingerprinted and processed, Tyson strolled through the doors with a smirk on his face and handcuffs on his wrists. 45 minutes later, he entered the Indiana Department of Correction Diagnostic Center in Plainfield as prisoner number 922335. So, all of which is to say, he didn't have a competent defense. Grounds for a retrial, as I said, at the very least. The attorney that was given him by Don King was not equipped to deal with this. And at trial, there was no evidence produced. There were certainly many conflicting aspects of the story. Look, this is where you get into murky territory, because obviously we live in a time where we understand the complexities of prosecuting rape and sexual assault cases. We understand that women don't like to come forward. We understand that these things are very often hard to prove. We also understand the trauma involved with testifying. Many women that have been rape victims having to go to court and then being cross-examined and grilled and having to give the gruesome details of what happened to them have said it's like being raped all over again. So I'm not unsympathetic, and look, I can't subscribe to the believe all women all of the time philosophy no matter what. I can't get there. I'm sorry, guys. I need evidence and I need things to make sense. And unfortunately, this entire trial, everything Desiree Washington said, it didn't make sense. You've complimented Mike Tyson on how attractive he is. That's obvious. That obviously none of these things would excuse rape or actually preclude rape as having happened. But you then meet with him. You go up to his room. You take out a sanitary napkin or a tampon. You get rid of it and you put it in the toilet. You then go and have sex with him. You claim he held you down while he performed oral sex on you, but there's no marks, no bruises. The evidence of supposed vaginal tearing, even according to a medical expert, only happens in 20 to 30%. It's not necessarily consistent. It can happen in consensual sex. On top of that, you were never really cross-examined. There were a number of inconsistencies in your story. You've accused people in the past of similar transgressions and then walked it back because you didn't want your dad to get upset. I'm sure Mike Tyson isn't a nice person. I'm sure he treated women like sex objects, like a lot of wealthy young sports stars do. This should have been a cakewalk for an experienced trial lawyer to get Mike Tyson off of. The fact that Mike Tyson ever went to prison for this is insane. And enter Alan Dershowitz. You might not know who Alan Dershowitz is, although I will add, because he's represented Donald Trump and has been pro-Trump in terms of the lawfare that's gone up against Trump, but he's not actually a supporter of Trump politically, I don't believe. Alan Dershowitz is like a civil rights lawyer, a trial attorney legend, obviously still a professor at Harvard Law School, professor emeritus, I should say. He's an absolute legend. He's in his mid-80s now. He's been going a long, long time. And so Alan Dershowitz took on the appeal for Mike Tyson. He genuinely believed he could get him off on appeal, and he was one of his biggest advocates. This is one of the most... people, you might not know this. So Penthouse magazine is obviously, it's porn like Playboy. It was another one of those Playboy alternatives. But obviously, all the porn magazines back then, it wasn't just, slop and, here's a beaver shot and, here's another beaver shot and here's some readers' wives' letters and all of this stuff. It was like, you had some of the best writers in America would write in porn magazines. Hunter S. Thompson's been published in like Playboy and Penthouse and all of this stuff. Miller and fucking Mailer and like all these like legends of all, probably Hemingway at some point. They've all been in these adult magazines, And so Alan Dershowitz had a good relationship with Penthouse magazine. And I've got the PDF of this magazine. I've always wanted to own a physical copy. I might buy it because he went to Penthouse and he wrote an article about all of the things detailed in that article about why it was an incompetent trial, why he was taking the appeal. But he gave it one of the most provocative titles he could have done. And this did generate a lot of attention. He wrote his article. It was called The Rape of Mike Tyson. That's how strongly Alan Dershowitz felt about Mike Tyson's innocence. And that was the cover of Penthouse. He felt that, like I do, that ultimately the fact he was a young, angry black male who was a millionaire, I think he was done dirty by the system. I think he was done dirty by the jury. I think there was a lot of people at that time in America had a vested interest in seeing him kind of, be held accountable. And it's almost like an interesting parallel to the O.J. Simpson trial. Mike Tyson from the slums of Brooklyn, who really was about that life, he goes away for something he didn't do. O.J. Simpson, who fucking, said, I'm not black, I'm O.J., hung around with all the wealthy white people and, did all that pandering. He got away with the murder he absolutely did do. It really makes you think. Anyway, he went away. He did his time. And it really derailed his career, as you would expect. To be fair as well, just while we're on the topic of Dershowitz, let's also, I've got this here. Let me play you this little clip from an interview where Alan Dershowitz talks about representing Mike Tyson and how he believed he was absolutely, inarguably innocent.
And then that next year, in 1993, he represented Mike Tyson. Now, at the time, Mike Tyson was already convicted, so this was an appeal case.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you've said in interviews that Mike Tyson is absolutely innocent.
Absolutely.
Now, I've interviewed Mike before, and we've talked about this whole situation. He talked about his jail time and everything else like that. Why would you say he's absolutely innocent?
Because I've seen the evidence. I've seen the evidence of 4 witnesses who were kept out of the case. I've seen the evidence of medical tests. I've seen all the evidence, and the evidence just points inerringly to his innocence. So I believe he was innocent.
Okay, and you said that there's 4 witnesses who I guess saw Tyson and his accuser like kiss and cuddle with each other before the actual incident.
Yeah.
And why was this left out of the actual courtroom?
Because the judge was a prosecutor. She had previously been a rape prosecutor. She was totally and completely biased, and she just didn't want to admit evidence that would have led the jury to acquit, which I think the jury would have done. And the case was fixed in some ways. The case was ultimately, I only did the appeal, and the appeal was decided 2-2. 2 votes to reverse, 2 votes to affirm. Or 2 votes to take the case, 2 votes not to take
Doing
the
the
case.
apex
But if they
there?
had taken it, they would have reversed. Because the chief judge, who himself had been accused of sexual misconduct, disqualified himself from the case based on a setup. What happened is I was at my Yale Law School reunion talking to my dear friend Stephen Trachtenberg, and this woman came over and started tapping me on the back, and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm in a conversation." She said, No, this is important. You can't expect that New York logic will win in Indiana. I said, "Well, ma'am, who are you?" She said, "Well, I'm the wife of the Chief Justice." And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't talk to you." The Chief Justice, in my view, sent her to talk to me and then made up a story that, we had discussed the case. We hadn't discussed the case. And then the chief judge disqualified himself from the case, leading to the 2-2 verdict. It was one of the worst miscarriages of justice that I've seen in my 60 years.
Well, I guess Mike Tyson actually ran out of money.
I continued to defend him without money. I continued to defend him. He paid me some money, and then he couldn't pay. But I have to tell you about Mike. The day he fought his first fight after he left prison, he paid me and all the other lawyers, even some who didn't continue with him. I continued with him because I never drop a case. Because my client runs out of money, I feel that I have an ethical obligation to continue the case as long as the client can't afford it. The client refuses to pay, that's one thing. But if he can't afford it, I continue on the case. I've done that in numerous cases.
Any interesting stories while dealing with Mike during this time?
Yeah, I mean, when I met Mike, the night he was about to go into prison, first time, he says to me, you think I'm innocent? I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't yet read the whole transcript. He said, well, all right. What kind of a guy you think I am? I said, Mike, please excuse me, but I think you're a schmuck. He said, you calling me a schmuck? I said, yeah, going up to a hotel room at 3 a.m. with a woman you didn't know, without anybody being there as a witness, that's something a schmuck does.
So, Alan Dershowitz was so adamant that Mike Tyson was innocent, he represented him essentially pro bono because, again, as we're going to get to, Mike Tyson had a number of bankruptcies. And look, Alan Dershowitz has been maligned by the media in the modern zeitgeist because of his Trumpian affiliations. People have tried to discredit this man and say that he's not an incredible legal mind with an unbelievable tenured history. He's like royalty in law, and he's took on many noble cases and represented many people that absolutely couldn't have got the level of representation he gave them if he wasn't willing to commit to their causes. And he's a fantastic representative of the American legal system. And you know, as I said, I don't believe any bullshit you hear about him just because he represented Donald Trump and he went on Fox News and said the lawfare was wrong and so they all went after him. Don't fall into that trap. Dershowitz is a great man. Anyway, unfortunately, the appeal that happened, it did fail, as we know now, of course, because we're in the future. Tyson loses his appeal on a split decision. The Indiana Court of Appeals in a 2-1 decision today upheld Mike Tyson's rape conviction. An important part of the 72-page decision, the appeals panel ruled that the trial court did not abuse its discretion in blocking the testimony of 3 defense witnesses who would have contradicted Desiree Washington. That's what Dershowitz was referring to. Not only was Washington's prior allegations left out of court, there were witnesses who said that Washington was hugging and kissing Mike Tyson after the alleged rape took place, and they were not allowed to testify. The majority also ruled the court properly excluded evidence. Tyson said that he would show that Washington had a powerful and secret motive to lie about the rape. The evidence, never disclosed, involved incidents between Washington and her parents, Donald and Mary, after the charges were filed. Tyson's lawyers contended, but the defense lawyers who presented their oral arguments for the appeal on February 15th failed to question her parents on the issue and so waived the right to appeal it, the court ruled. Mike lost a very important round today, said Alan Dershowitz, but the fight's not over. He might eventually win a split decision. He's instructed me to file an immediate application for review in the Indiana Supreme Court, asking that court to resolve the dispute between the majority opinion and Judge Sullivan's dissent. So, obviously, we know he served out his entire sentence. I do want to add, by the way, it's not like Mike Tyson had sort of helped himself in 2003, having got out of prison. This is what he said. And understand, he's maintained his innocence the entire time. But Mike, things like this don't really help. Tyson says he would really rape victim now. Mike Tyson hasn't lost his penchant for saying the outrageous. In a television interview scheduled for broadcast on Thursday, Tyson again denied he raped Desiree Washington in 1991, but he said the burden of being labeled a convicted rapist makes him want to do it now. I just hate her guts. She put me in that state where I don't know, Tyson said. I really wish I did now, but now I really do want to rape her. So, you know, as I said, he's not perfect. Let's put it that way. Right, here's another aspect to all of this. Tyson obviously gets out of prison. He goes back to fighting. He only served, he only served 3 years. And as you can see, he gets out again. He goes on. He has a fight with Peter McNeely in 95, is it? Yeah, 95. And McNeely got disqualified. He got disqualified over some bullshit. Then he fought Buster. That was a circus. He fought Buster Mathis Jr. It's a decent fight. He won again. Then this was something I bought on pay-per-view back in '96. Frank Bruno Bruno, Mike Tyson. I believe Prince Nazim was on the undercard. If I remember correctly, I think it might have been when Prince Nazim fought Said Lawal, the Nigerian. In that fight, Prince Nazim hit Said Lawal 3 times, broke his jaw and his eye socket with 2 punches. Anyway, what you have to understand is, though, Mike Tyson, when he got out of prison, obviously he wasn't the same man. Not just mentally, I mean physically. Let me show you. And obviously he was getting older as well. It's a picture from him in 1991, which is obviously when it all started coming off the rails. And then when he got out of prison, you'll just see it's just not quite the same. He's bigger in some areas and smaller in others, but he was still looking fucking mean. He was still in good fucking shape. But obviously, prison life, prison food, prison gym, not great for a boxer. Still, a scary and intimidating physical presence he was. And naturally, he went on and he fucking fought and demolished Frank Bruno in 3. And then he went on and beat Bruce Seldon and he won a title. And then with winning that belt, becoming a world championship again in both WBC and WBA, it came the real fights. And this is when Evander Holyfield shows up. Now, again, I don't need to show you the video of Evander Holyfield and the ear biting and everything else. People don't realize how this kind of went down. In the first fight, right, Evander Holyfield beat him. But Evander Holyfield beat him, and in that fight, Tyson was complaining about one of the things Evander Holyfield used to do was he'd use the head. He would come in and he would, you know, if you were there and you were in the clinch, he'd fucking give you one of these. He knew what he was doing. He would get his head down and get it. And in the same way that, like, look, the dirty secret in the UFC is eye pokes aren't fucking accidental. Right? You know when you're doing that on someone's face, what you're doing. Holyfield used to know that, like, look, if I get my head down here and I come in, I'm going to fucking butt you. If you and think about Tyson's style of fighting. And Tyson was the guy who wanted to get in your face and peekaboo. And so Holyfield in the clinch was working the fucking head and absolutely wrecking him. And so Tyson felt very aggrieved coming out of their first fight, right? And so when he went into the second one, Tyson was fucking psychologically tapped. He was fucked. All he wanted to do was hurt Holyfield. And when Holyfield worked the head again, he came out in the third round without his gum shield in so he could bite the motherfucker. And he did. He bit him so hard, he took a chunk of his ear off. And if you're a boxing fan like me, you'll never forget the footage of Evander Holyfield bouncing up and down like a child having a tantrum almost. We didn't know what the fuck was going on, thought he was maybe overselling it, and then we saw his ear. And there was an actual fucking piece missing. And I've got to say, I've never seen anything. It's disgraceful. I've seen some absolute circuses in boxing. Fights at the press conferences and managers piling into the ring, blows when an opponent is down, blows after the bell, fucking stools being thrown at each other. I've never seen anything as repulsive and repugnant as what Mike Tyson did to Evander Holyfield in that fight, in that day. It is a righteous disqualification, but this is all evidence that by 1997, Tyson's head is going. He ain't got his heart isn't in it anymore. It's just unacceptable. And so he ended up getting banned. He served some time. And then obviously after this, it's just miserable right up until the Lennox Lewis fight that essentially ended him in 2002. I mean, look, he fought fucking Francis Botha. He had that fucking no contest disgrace against Andrew Gallotta. Also, this is just indicative of where heavyweight boxing had gone to. Tyson fighting a fighter like Julius Francis. I mean, it would have been unthinkable back in the heyday. When you looked at the actual fighters he fought and who was around at that time. Sadly, after losing to Holyfield twice, Tyson's career is effectively done. And anyway, what I will say is, just on this note, they did settle that beef. I mean, for a long time, there was a lot of, back and forth thrown around. But they did settle it. Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield even went in on a venture. Here it is. Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield launched Holy Ears cannabis-infused edibles. These were ear-shaped gummies filled with THC. There, of course, is the famous disqualification photo. Boxing legends and former rivals Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield are teaming up to launch a line of cannabis-infused edibles called Holy Ears, or like Holyfield, you see. And so, if I remember rightly, I think they even posed for, yeah, here it is. It's like, you know, they did this photo shoot together. And by the way, I'll just say, well, even though this has nothing to do with the video, Holyfield was a fighter who fought too long. It's really sad to see him now. If you actually remember Holyfield in his prime, he was a fucking stone cold killer, one of the true greats. Just an incredible, like, articulate man, but he just kept going and going and going and going, and now he's CTE to the max. Motherfucker can barely talk. It's fucking tragic. Someone had to intervene and stop him. But anyway, here he is with Mike Tyson, who certainly managed to keep more of his faculties and scruples. And look, they even did this. They even did this, like, which shows, you know, how great these warriors are. It's like, it's, you know, to be able to forgive and forget and move on from these things. But I want to make it abundantly clear, I absolutely don't co-sign Tyson's behavior in that instance. It was an actual fucking disgrace. And it's one of the worst things that happened in the sport. Thanks to El Gapo, he's just sent me apparently the official commercial. I'll assume it's suitable for stream. Let's give it a watch.
Man, I can't believe it's finally the week of greatness at Foot Locker.
A whole week of the most premium kicks? Feels like all is right with the world.
Wait, this isn't it. This isn't their Holy Ears thing. Oh, look, is this when they officially made up in 2013? Did they do a Foot Locker ad?
I'm sorry, Evander. It's your ear.
So, Mr. Rodman, round trip to North Korea?
One way.
One way? Woo!
Goodbye, old friends.
I okay?
Well, that's great. But a man's got to know when to walk away.
Well, not everything's aged well in that commercial, but fair enough. Wasn't the world a better place back then? Just before, that's literally 2013. That's before the world went insane. Appreciate you sending me that. Did they actually do a commercial for the gummies? Oh yeah, they did. Here we go.
One thing you can be sure of is that nothing is more rewarding than the gift of giving. Happy Holy Days.
You go first. You go first. No, you go first. Right. You go first. Okay, I'll go first. No, I go. You sure? You mean, here you go. What's this? I'm glad we ironed things out. This is my best thing. Now I got you a gift. What is this? What is this? I got you your ear. No, it's not. This ain't my ear. Yes, it is. Cherry pie punch flavor. My ears don't taste like cherry pie. Yes, they do. My ears don't. Yes, they do. Man, they don't. Yes, they do. No, it don't. Yes, it do. Why, I ate your ear, I should know. Well, you're right.
So, look, this is obviously the Mike Tyson we've got now, which is the version of Mike Tyson I'm so happy to see. Mike Tyson was meant to have been eaten alive by the system. He's meant to be in prison. He's meant to be dead. He's meant to be destitute. He isn't. He's in a good place. And I'm glad he needs to stay away from the sport that treated him so poorly and enjoy the rest of his life. He's earned it, in my opinion. Anyway, we're going back, though, because now we have to talk about Mike Tyson, the media figure, and how he was handled by the media, and it's disgraceful. Not a lot of people know Mike Tyson lost a child. He lost a child in 2009, and the media don't treat him like someone who's lost a child. They treat him like someone who is a thug, an ex-convict, a felon, a piece of shit. What happened is his daughter, Exodus, who was 4 years old, was playing at her home where Mike Tyson didn't live, but there was a gym in the home. She actively turned on the treadmill by accident. She got caught up in the treadmill track, and it killed her. It suffocated her, essentially. And they found her, and, you know, they weren't able to resuscitate her. Mike Tyson, this is in 2009. And so Mike Tyson, by this point, has essentially hung up the gloves. You know, his last fight was in 2005, prior to the Jake Paul fight. I'm going to show you his last interview in just a moment, but it'll be a nice bit of levity after this pretty heavy topic. By the way, if you get triggered by hearing about things like dead children, or you're not very good with coping with male emotions, probably a good time to either turn off the stream, come back later, or just mute it temporarily. But anyway, the death of a child is obviously devastating to any parent. And Mike Tyson had, by this point, he'd been labeled a freak in the media. He'd got that facial tattoo. Remember, in prison, he converted to Islam. So he was criticized, if you can believe this, he was criticized in the media for converting to Islam. People thought it was a joke. He used to do his post-fight interviews and say, you know, all praise be to Allah. And the American media, you can imagine what the likes of Fox News did about this. Then there was the facial tattoo, of course, that he got. And people, you know, even though facial tattoos are just the norm in a lot of cultures around the world, for an American at that moment in time, it was deeply shocking. Now, no one, you see mumble rappers with just a fucking face like a Sudoku puzzle, and no one gives a fuck. But at the time, it was considered more evidence that, like, Tyson was off the rails, you know. It was just awful what the media did to him. And there was people as well that said his faith wasn't genuine, that, you know, he was converting to Islam just to get through prison and not get into trouble. And you can go and look up some of the articles where, you know, people were very skeptical, I think is a nice way to say it, or people pointed out that it was signs of him being mentally disturbed. You know, it just an awful time. What people obviously didn't pay any attention to was the fact that, you know, by 2009, this was now a man who had a new, fresh set of trauma. His entire life had been trauma. He had trauma at home with the absentee father and the beatings and the bullyings. By the way, another reason why I don't believe he raped somebody was a man tried to rape him when he was young, and it traumatized him and terrified him. And then he gets Kuz Diamato and everything's going well, and then Kuz dies and he's fed to the wolves, and then he's in prison. And imagine going to prison for a crime like rape, knowing you didn't do it, and having to sit in that cell every day, knowing that you've finally gone behind bars the way that everyone ever said you were going to be behind bars. And then you get out and you still have a little bit of a career, and then there's the Holyfield ear biting incident, and now suddenly you're a pariah and a disgrace and a thug. And then he had the Lennox Lewis fight. The Lennox Lewis fight, he threatened to fuck Lennox Lewis at a press conference, and then burst into tears after threatening it. I can't tell if that's, like, depressing or terrifying. He was a man with a lot of emotional problems. And then this happened. And so I want to just show you, because as with the Times, this is how the media covered his daughter's death. It's still shocking to me to read this, because it's just so tonally inappropriate. This is the ESPN, the America's premier sports reporting site. The 4-year-old daughter of boxer Mike Tyson died at a hospital on Tuesday, a day after her neck apparently got caught in a treadmill cord at her Phoenix home. Exodus Tyson was pronounced dead just before noon. She had been on life support, and police have said their investigation showed her injury to be a tragic accident. There are no words to describe the tragic loss of our beloved Exodus, the family said in a statement. We ask you now to please respect our need at this very difficult time for privacy to grieve and to try to help each other heal. Police said Exodus either slipped or put her head in the loop of a cord hanging under the console. Her 7-year-old brother found her and told their mother. She took Exodus off the cord, called 911, and tried to revive her. Responding officers and firefighters performed CPR as they took the girl to the hospital. Former heavyweight champion Tyson was in Las Vegas at the time of the accident and flew to Phoenix, where he was seen entering the hospital. The family's home is in a modest, quiet neighborhood. Neighbors say they saw Tyson there from time to time, and the children played outside regularly. This is where it starts getting weird. Dinka Radic, who lives across the street, said Exodus would ask her if she had any chocolate. When Radic gave her some, Exodus would hug the woman's knees and kiss, kiss, kiss. She'd say hi to everyone. She was really friendly, said Abdul Khalik, 53, who lives next door. He said Exodus rode her bicycle in the neighborhood and often played with his 2 children and his niece. He said his 14-year-old daughter had cried all day after hearing the news. Ben Broadhurst, 20, who lives across the street, said Exodus and her family went trick-or-treating at his house the last couple of Halloweens. She was very lively, very enjoyable to be around. The neighborhood contrasts starkly with the lavish lifestyle Tyson had through his tumultuous years of boxing, when he spent tens of millions of dollars and says he had millions more stolen from him by unscrupulous associates. During 2 years at the height of his career, he earned $140 million. The death of his child is such an unusual accident, it adds an awful chapter to the boxer's troubled life. Tyson first began boxing in a facility for juvenile delinquents in upstate New York at the age of 12. 8 years later, he became the youngest heavyweight champion ever when he knocked out Trevor Berbick in '86. But in 1990, he was defeated by James Buster Douglas in one of the biggest upsets in boxing history, and soon after was convicted of raping a beauty pageant contestant in Indianapolis. Tyson, who still denies he raped the woman, served 3 years in prison. A few years later, he served 3 months in jail for beating up 2 men after a car crash in suburban Washington. As his career continued, so did his bizarre behaviour. He bit off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear during a boxing match, once threatened to eat the children of heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis. Although Tyson's children had lived in their unassuming neighbourhood for several years, he purchased a separate home in the Tony Phoenix suburb of Paradise Valley in 2005 for $2.1 million, selling it years later for $2.3 million. In November 2007, Tyson spent 24 hours in Maricopa County's Tent City jail after pleading guilty to 1 count of cocaine possession and 1 misdemeanor count of driving under the influence. Police found the drug when they pulled over Tyson's car after he left a Scottsdale nightclub. According to police, Tyson said after his arrest that he bought cocaine whenever I can get my hands on it. At Tyson's sentencing hearing, nearly a year after the arrest, his attorney David Chesnov and his client had taken 29 drug tests without a relapse and was attending Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous meetings. Tyson had become an example of how one overcomes problems with drugs, a violent past, and a poor upbringing, Chesnov said. He tried his hardest, the attorney said, despite coming from almost impossible beginnings. What's that got to do with the fact this man's lost a child? It's just what the media did. They fucking destroyed this man and castigated this man every single opportunity he got. And there's a reason that's there, and you don't want to think about it, but your brain knows why they're doing it. And it's this. It's they're implying that he's a deadbeat dad. He's somehow complicit in the death of his child. Why do they live in a home like this when he lives in a mansion? How often does he come around? When they were doing trick-or-treating, Mike Tyson wasn't there. He was an absentee father. Had he been there, could this have been avoided? That's the intimation. And it's reprehensible, but it was par for the course. This was Tyson's life. And it gets worse. Mike Tyson is a brutally honest to a fault human being. He's honest when it hurts himself in terms of perception. He's honest about his mood, about his emotions. And he wanted to talk and open up about this happening. And on a number of occasions he tried this. There's a famous clip, I'm sure some of you will have seen it, and again, it's a tough watch. It's Mike Tyson in the middle of a sit-down interview after the death of his child. He starts crying because the death of a child would absolutely wipe you the fuck out. And he's so frustrated at himself for showing emotion in front of the interviewer. He stops the interviewer and basically tells the interviewer, like, you must leave, like something terrible is about to happen if you don't leave. And it's harrowing to watch. It's harrowing to see a man on an island with all of his pain and all of his grief and all of his loss, and nobody can reach out and nobody can help him, and he hates himself for showing emotions. If you know Mike Tyson, if you've watched a lot of Mike Tyson content down the years, he cries easy. You know, he cries easy, and he hates himself for doing it, but it's just all in there. And this is what I mean about how I love this version of him. That doesn't happen as much these days, but it happened a lot more than you would think. There were moments where he would seem impossibly zen, and then there were other moments where he would seem just impossibly agitated and sad. And so I'll play you the famous clip, and then I've got another clip I want to play you. So this is him talking to the interviewer after the death of his daughter. It's really potent stuff.
This is my best thinking at the time. Get my gun, automatic, just like this.
The question he's answering here is, he was asked, what were your immediate thoughts after the death of your daughter?
This is my best thinking at the time. Get my gun, automatic, just like this, and just go crazy.
Who are you gonna hurt?
Regardless, that's just my first thought. But when I went to the hospital, the people that were there, they're up there because their kids are dead too, or about to die. So, who the hell am I? Their kids are dying too. I don't know. No. It's something happened that day. I don't know what happened that day.
But whatever happened that day, was there a new Mike Tyson that came the next day?
No, I did some cocaine for a week. I had to get high. I had to back then. I had to get high. I couldn't handle it at all. You have to go. No, you understand, right? Thank you. Thank you, man. You want to take this stuff off?
You okay?
It's okay.
Sir, Mike, I'm really sorry you're going through this.
Okay.
I'm sorry if we brought up...
It's okay. I gotta grow up. It's tough. Goddamn man. Stop crying.
You're allowed to cry, Mike.
Just awful, you know? I've been there. You know, when you're going through grief.
All of you come get some, Mike.
And you can't handle your emotions, and you just feel unbelievably powerful shame at not being able to control yourself in public, that anything can set you off at any moment. You can go from being normal, having fun, laughing, joking, to, you know, ugly crying in front of strangers, and you can't explain why. And it's really tough, and it just makes you feel dreadful. You know, you want to isolate yourself and cut yourself off, and you think, oh, there'll just be a period where, as Mike Tyson puts it there, I'll just grow up, I'll get over it, I'll be better again one day, and until then, I'm not fit to be around people. And you could see Mike Tyson was going through this, and there was absolutely no grace shown at all from the media. Another interview he did after his daughter passed, when it was a little bit further on. This was, I believe, I can't remember what year it was, but it was a couple of years later, I think. And he went on CNN, and he talked about it with Larry King. And I've always wondered about this interview. I can't tell if I hate Larry King for how he asks the questions, or if I respect the fact that he's very matter-of-fact. Because in this interview, Mike Tyson is talking about losing a child, and Larry King is going, do you believe in an afterlife? And I just can't... And Mike Tyson takes it so well. And I can't tell if the matter-of-fact nature of the questioning is exactly perfect to talk about such a somber topic, or actually his questions are fucking outrageous and Mike Tyson is just taking it like a champ. I've never been able to get to the bottom of it. I go back and forth. I wrestle with it all the time. But I'll play you the interview. It's 5 minutes, and I want you to see the grace with which Mike Tyson comports himself on this interview. It's incredible.
Do you ever look back and say, I'm not that guy I was?
All the time, all the time. Wow, yeah, that's pretty interesting you said that. Yeah, I look at that guy and say, what was going on? What was happening there? You know, you have no idea what was going on with my life back then. I said, what was going on back then with this guy?
What in effect, what the most changed you?
I don't know. I just knew I had to grow up. You know, I had an incident where I lost my daughter in some family accident at home, and it was just a time to grow up and wake up.
That was, of course, the worst incident in your life, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
She died how?
A freak accident on the treadmill.
How old was she?
4.
Were you home?
No. I wasn't living with her mother at the time. I was in Las Vegas, and they live in Phoenix. And her mother called and told me what had happened, and I rushed down there, and it was already pretty much a done deal.
How do you never get over that, do you?
I don't know. I know it's just it's a new stage. It's the beginning stage, so I don't know if I get over it or not.
Do you believe in an afterlife? Do you believe she is somewhere?
I don't know anything. I just know that we have to keep on living, and being alive is for the living, and being dead is for the dying. We have to continue living.
Interesting philosophy on life. You're done with boxing, right?
Pretty much so, yeah.
You don't ever think about doing a Holyfield?
Never, ever, no. I wish I could. Maybe it's that he does it, but I wish I could, yeah.
You ever miss it?
Periodically, yes, very periodically. Not, wow, I should have done this. No, I wish every now and then.
You don't go through woulda, shoulda, coulda?
Never.
Okay, a lot of people probably still think you're Iron Mike Tyson, but you're not. And we sent a crew to your home in Las Vegas. Let's show everybody how you spend your days.
Good Larry, man.
Here's Mike Tyson, the family man.
And they just do this fun segment. Like, just straight from talking about his dead... again, it's like, I don't know, is this just how you should handle it? Here's his other kids. Like, they just move on, like...
From the president to the vice president. Big time.
I went from the president to the vice president?
No, I went from the president to the vice president. Say hi, Larry. Oh, she's shy. You like that, don't you? This is difficult, but this is a challenge I welcome with open arms. I love this stuff now.
The career, the life and times of Mike Tyson, an extraordinary figure in the history of American sport, the former heavyweight boxing champion. Let's go back a little. Do you think you had too much too soon?
I don't know, Larry. I wanted it soon. I wanted it. I don't know if I was prepared for it, but I know I wanted it. And I was prepared to get it, and I trained hard and worked hard,
How old were you when you were champion?
20 years old.
In reflection, would you have been better off if it had happened when you were 25?
No, because then I would have been obsolete. I would have been just like everyone else.
So you're glad you're the youngest person to hold the title?
Yes.
You grew up in a tough neighborhood in Brooklyn.
You did too.
Same neighborhood?
Yeah.
Brownsville.
Isn't that an awesome place?
Saratoga Park.
Yeah.
You go there?
All the time.
My daddy used to take me there for good humor ice cream.
All the time.
You had to bust out of that neighborhood, though.
Yeah. Of course, it's a tough inner city, probably the toughest in America, the poorest city in America. And it's just, it's for war with dog eat dog. Of course, it's where Murder Incorporated originated.
Yeah, you know your history, right?
Yeah.
Brooklyn's still in you, though.
To the day I die, yeah.
Me too.
It's just who you are, It's something about Brooklyn people, and that's and it's interesting because every one of us always feel different. We don't feel we feel that for some reason we're from Brooklyn. We feel like we're the best. Don't you feel the same way too?
If not the best, certainly we're a part.
Yeah,
People
From
are gonna know our name and know where we come from. And people
Yeah.
know, that's how we feel. You'd feel the same way too.
A lot of success stories out of Brooklyn.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, maybe it's because we were like an island. You know, Manhattan was out there, right?
I would say so, yeah.
So, just a bizarre segment. But, you know, look, you can see there, this is obviously a period in his life where he's done a lot of healing and a lot of thought process. This is a period of time, by the way, where he'd obviously stopped his cocaine usage, stopped his drinking, was having an active part in a family life. And you can just see already how much better he is. But we'll do a little back and forth here. I want to show you the last interview of the last fight, which he lost against a bum in 2005, Kevin McBride. And Tyson actually just gave up. And let me just show you, here it is, the last moments, and then we'll skip to the interview.
In a fight that has shifted dramatically, McBride landing the uppercuts from close range. Things have turned for McBride. Tyson too far away, a right uppercut, two right uppercuts landing by McBride on the chin.
And those were delivered well. Those were delivered with him bending at the knee, and they had some power.
Kevin McBride, a journeyman, is making Mike Tyson look like a third-tier heavyweight. 15 seconds left in the 6th round.
And if McBride actually wins this round, it would be a 10-7 round.
Not a knockdown. McBride just pushing Tyson down. And he's having difficulty getting up.
Come on. He wants Joe Cortez to help him.
He can barely make it to his feet at the bell.
That was a push. That was a push.
Obviously a push.
In the corner. That was a push.
Tyson totally disorganized.
Hey, come here. There is no defense in the water. Come on. There is no defense. Leave me alone. Come on, leave me alone. Will you? No, look at me, will you? Close your eyes. We'll take care of it. Well, an eventful round to say the least. First, Mike Tyson twisting the arm of...
It's over now. It's over. Kevin McBride is the winner. Mike Tyson quits on his stool. He's not coming out for the 7th round. It's all over. Kevin McBride has defeated Mike Tyson.
And so that's it. Essentially, Tyson quit. And as you'll hear in the interview, he was just done. He just didn't have it in him anymore. It's why, by the way, I mean, look, I watched the exhibition match. Not at the time. I wouldn't pay for it. I didn't want him and Roy Jones Jr. to do their exhibition match. I didn't want Tyson to fight ever again. I don't think it's good for him. He trained so hard. He still trains like a monster. He's in such phenomenal shape for a man of his age. But there's just something psychologically that I don't want him adjacent to, because I just don't think it's good for him, and I think he's already gone through so much. But the Paul fight, that's a work. The Jake Paul fight's a fucking work. I'm not saying it's fixed. He just doesn't, he's an old man. He's an old man, and his desire to truly want to hurt people is gone. It was never going to go the way it went. But anyway, we'll come to why that's a happy ending. We'll get to the interview. Here it is. This is when he puts the mic in front of him.
Jim Gray is up in the ring right now with Mike Tyson. Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Steve. Mike, first let's start with you. Did you want to continue?
Well, I would like to continue, but I saw that I was getting beat on. I realized I don't think I have it anymore, because I got the ability to stay in shape, but I don't got the fighting guts, I don't think, anymore.
When did you recognize that? At what part of the fight?
I don't know. Early into the fight. I'm just sorry I let everybody down. I just don't have this in my heart anymore.
Did you feel as though you had it coming into the fight?
No, I'm just fighting to take care of my bills, basically. I don't have the stomach for this kind of no more. I'm more conscious of my children and those guys looking at my appearance. I don't have that ferocity. I'm not an animal anymore.
Does that mean we won't see you fight again?
Yeah, that's most likely. I'm not going to fight again. I'm not going to disrespect the sport anymore by losing to this caliber of fighters.
Jeff, why did you decide to step in at this point and tell referee Joe Cortez that you didn't want him to continue?
I told everybody from day one when I came here that I'm not here. I love Mike, and that's enough. I could see that, he done his best for those rounds. And listen, he wouldn't have done 6 rounds like that, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. He done great rounds. I'm so proud of him today, and I want him not just to. We lost, but hey, a lot of great fighters lost the last fight. Jeff Fennick did. I want him to go out happy, proud, and able to look after his children. That's what he can do today.
Mike, how difficult is this for you emotionally and mentally to see this come to an end after the career you've had?
Not much, because I don't have any desire for this anymore, so I basically don't care much about the sport. I'm sorry to disappoint the people. I wish they can get their money back some kind of way.
You seemed as though in the 6th round like you were fighting for your career not to end with the headbutt. Was it intentional?
No, but I'm just in there fighting, and I'm a little desperate, so I'm trying to win.
Mike, a lot of people wonder what you'll do now with your life. Boxing has been your whole life.
Well, I'm sure I'll find something to do. Boxing doesn't define me. I'm just sorry to disappoint the people in the city. I know I didn't have it in my stomach no more, but I was in dire needs to take care of my life.
Is Kevin McBride a good fighter, or was he just somebody who caught you now at the end of your career?
Well, I can't take anything away from Kevin, but your guys know the situation. People in the boxing world know the situation.
I know you've lost tonight. I know it's difficult, but are you in a better place in your head mentally at this portion of your life than you've been in the past?
Oh, definitely. I have different friends, different associates. I don't even associate with my old crowd and associates no more. I don't get involved with that. I'm in a different world right now, a totally different spirit.
Mike, we appreciate your time. It's been great to watch your career. It's been up and down. We've seen a lot of things out of you, and tonight we appreciate your sportsmanship and the way you've handled this.
Thank you very much, Jim Gregg.
All right, Mike Tyson.
Just
Jeff,
remember, there's 18,000 people here to see a legend, and he went out as a legend.
That's absolutely true. As we bring Kevin McBride in.
So that was the speech, how he went out. And what you have to understand here is, once again, Mike Tyson's brutal fucking honesty coming to the forefront. He didn't want to fight this guy. He didn't want to fight at all. This was a very different Mike Tyson at this point in his life. He'd already been humbled in some of his previous fights anyway. Look, you lose to Danny Williams. Obviously, as I said, Lennox Lewis was when it was truly over. It was a fight he had to take, and I'm going to explain why he had to take it as well, just for context. And the media reported this with absolute fucking relish, and that was Mike Tyson had a bankruptcy in his life. He had to declare bankrupt. Yes, a man who had so much money, he had mansions, he had sports cars, he had pet tigers, he could do anything he wanted, but he ended up bankruptcy. He ended up with no money at all. He had to take fucked up shit freak fights at the end of his career just to get a few million in to pay off creditors. And this is the 2003 report. Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy in an attempt to bring order to his muddled finances. The former world heavyweight champion has earned $300 million in a turbulent 18-year career, but appears to have squandered it all. As a professional fighter who relied on others to manage his affairs, he discovered his debts now far exceed his assets. Now he has taken the lead in bringing order to his financial affairs. Tyson earned around £15 million alone for his world title fight against Lennox Lewis 14 months ago, and was almost certainly the first fighter to pass the £100 million mark in career earnings. But he had hitherto taken a back seat in the management of his fortune, and numerous costly lawsuits, some brought by him and others brought against him, have contributed substantially to his problems. By the way, when I was researching this video, I went on my Pacer account to look at all of the lawsuits, because I thought there might be a few good ones we could bring in. There's so many. So many people have fucked with Tyson and tried to sue him. And by the way, Mike Tyson's tried to sue former people in his entourage to get some of his fucking money back. It's actually crazy. Trust me, searching for Mike Tyson on Pacer is fucking... You're going to get the fucking phone book. It's wild. Anyway, earlier this year, for example, he agreed to pay his ex-wife, Monica, $6.5 million from future earnings in a divorce settlement. Of course, a divorce will always fuck you up. He has also frittered away millions on mansions, cars, Bengal tigers, and extravagant extravagant gifts for his entourage. Aside from his financial difficulties, Tyson could also face a new jail term if convicted of assault after an incident in a hotel in Brooklyn, New York in June. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. And so, obviously, this is a guy who lost all of his money, had to go back, took the freak fight, lost his stomach for the sport, and then in 2009 loses his daughter. The media absolutely fucking loved watching every single part of this guy's fucking downfall, and it's disgraceful. It's shameful. As I said, just to show you again, because I pulled up a few of these, but I don't need to read you this. This is the New York Times again, who never seemed to waste an opportunity to shit on Mike Tyson. Tyson's bankruptcy is a lesson in ways to squander a fortune. Right? And it breaks down all of the, oh yeah, how dare he spend his money, and look at all of this. It's like fucking, yeah, they just loved every fucking second of it. They loved every fucking wretched second of his suffering the entire fucking time. So, we now get to modern era Mike Tyson. And many of you will have seen recently he took the fight against Jake Paul. It was on Netflix. Netflix has been moving into live events. They obviously had this fight. They've also signed the WWE, and they're broadcasting live broadcasts now. And Mike Tyson took this fight. It was awful to watch, but I do believe it was a work. They were they're friends apparently in real life, which would mean Jake Paul does get away with the racial insult he threw at him during the press conference where he impersonated a gorilla while talking about him. But I guess in fact, actually, there it is. Look, in social media posts, some speculated Tyson's slap was a response to Paul making a racist gesture by climbing on stage and walking up to Tyson on all fours, imitating the knuckle walking done by gorillas and chimpanzees. I mean, bold, I guess, to fucking racially disparage the baddest man on the planet. Also, we haven't talked about as well, because there's just so much to go into with Tyson. I could have talked about his time in the WWE, which he also did because he needed money. He's always struggled with this because every time he wanted to go and get more money, it turns out it was never really there because there were definitely people siphoning off huge amounts for themselves. But anyway, he got the bag from this, and also on top of getting the bag from what is ostensibly an exhibition fight, even though it counts as a loss on his professional record, he's also been heralded for turning around his bankruptcy and getting his net worth back. He's been engaging, this is on Afrotech, he's been engaging in speaking tours talking about how he beat his bankruptcy. And it's kind of interesting because obviously, yeah, he did do appearances in films and everything else, but here's how he made his financial comeback. Obviously, as a TV star, we've got the Tyson, Jake Paul thing in there, but his additional business ventures, you can see here, he's slowly been building back his net worth throughout the last decade. He's been very careful not to blow his fortunes on frivolous things this time around. He's invested in himself with media ventures, includes his own podcast series, Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, where Mike Tyson, by the way, gets absolutely fucking battered every episode. Like, it's like basically he is the final boss. He's the pre-final boss of weed smoking and edible taking before you fight Joey Diaz. Basically, he gets absolutely fucking annihilated. The show, which just came to an end this year, was launched in 2019 and frequently featured guests who have had a major impact on the world of sports and entertainment. He even had Cat Williams on there in an interview that no one talks about in the same degree as the Shay Shay one. One of the central conceits of Hot Boxing is Mike Tyson's love of marijuana, which helps to mellow him out. Mike opened a weed brand of his own in 2021 called Tyson 2.0. The business has since grown to bring in tons of money each year, with brick-and-mortar storefronts available to visit in numerous states across the country. And by the way, it's essentially a chain of dispensaries, and you can go to multiple states. Tyson 2.0, it's there. There's all different types of weed, but obviously the big boy is Tyson 2.0. You can go, they're actually pretty well spread around. So ultimately, to see a guy go from the depths of bankruptcy, the depths of cocaine addiction, to losing a child, not be active in a sport anymore, to be able to turn it around by just being a media personality, and one that's becoming rightfully increasingly beloved by the American people. It's a really fucking good positive story. And for him to have any net worth at all now and be the humble and happy man he is just a great tale. And so that essentially brings us to the final point of the assessment, which was, I have to assess Mike Tyson's legacy. So let's start with the boxing. The boxing legacy is, for me, pretty straightforward. Personally, I think he's the greatest of all time. If you are interested in boxing, I urge you, go and just pull up highlights of any of his fights and just watch a phenomenal talent that had it all. A chin, a power, an engine, a technique that enabled him to flourish inside of the ring, and understand that, yes, you are witnessing true greatness in a sport that has thrown up so many greats, so many people you can talk about. So for me, personally, the greatest. Now, the legacy of Tyson the Man is very complicated. Tyson the Man certainly engaged in, bad behavior, putting it mildly. I think Tyson was, for broad periods of his life, a misogynist. I don't think he was necessarily a great family member. I think he had a lot of demons that he needed to work through, and sometimes you can't really be a good parent, a good husband. You can't really be that when you're working through that shit, none of which is to excuse your obligations or your responsibility. I think what he did with Holyfield is ultimately not just a stain on his legacy, but a stain on the sport of boxing. It remains one of the most shameful in-ring incidents I've ever seen, and it mortifies me to think that my beloved Mike Tyson did that, because it is unforgivable. There's no words you can, there's no argument you can make about why it was acceptable. And some people try, the ref should have protected him from Holyfield. But it just isn't the case. It doesn't matter what is happening in the ring. It doesn't even matter if you believe the ref is biased and he wants to see you get fucking dusted up by the insanely powerful forehead of Evander Holyfield. You've got to win the fight. And that's when I knew, back in 97, that Tyson was essentially on the outs. He was done. He mentally broke in the ring. This was a guy who was fucking fearless and fucking ruthless as soon as he got in. And he just wasn't that guy anymore. He was angry, frustrated, lacked self-belief. And, that's one of the dark incidents. He said there in that 2005 interview, he didn't want to bring disrepute and disgrace to the sport. You already did that, unfortunately, with what you did with the Holyfield biting incident. Tyson the Man now is someone I absolutely vibe with. I hate the way the world just won't leave this guy alone. I hate that every time I see him on social media, it's some chucklehead fucking bothering him in the back of a plane. And then when he reacts, people go, oh, he's still a thug, is he? It's like, bro, no one has fucked with this. No one has been fucked with more than this guy, and yet he's still come out the other end as a mellow, humble guy who wants to share life lessons with other people on a media platform, preferably while off his tits. So I've got to say, it is a complicated legacy, but to the conviction, to the rape, you will never convince me from now until the end of time he was guilty of that. I believe it's one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in American history, not just repeating Dershowitz's line. It is something I have fastidiously read about. I couldn't believe it at the time as a kid, and I can't believe it now as an adult. And Tyson maintained his innocence the whole time. Surely said some pretty outrageous things. Should have killed the bitch. Wish I'd done it, etc., etc. But ultimately, I can understand some of his pain and frustration. There are fewer things worse in society that dispenses justice than when miscarriages of justice happen and people wrongly are incarcerated. As I've said many times, it's why I always plug the Innocence Project. Mike Tyson was innocent. I believe he's innocent. I don't believe he's a rapist. I believe he's a misogynist, but I don't believe he would hurt women. I believe he just devalued them as people because of where he was at that time in his life. So, the legacy of the man, complicated, very complicated. But what I will add is now the legacy that we're left with, the resurgence, the rebirth of Mike Tyson. I hope he stays away from boxing forever. Even the freak fights. It's always tempting to go back. He's had health problems recently. Remember, the Paul fight got postponed because he had some issue with his intestines. I believe it was maybe diverticulitis. It's not an unserious thing, particularly for a man of his age, and yet he still got back, and he still trained, and he still got in the ring. So I love this version of Mike Tyson. We're blessed to have this version of Mike Tyson. And overall, Mike Tyson will always be one of the greatest sports icons in American history. A phenomenal talent, a complicated man, but someone who's come out the other side of just impossible suffering and pain to still make a contribution here in the modern day. And with that said, there is one more clip that isn't anything to do with any of that, but it is one that we must end on because El Gapo says so. And why not? And why not? And so this is the time he thought Hezbollah was a baby.
Hezbollah.
The short guy. The short guy.
Is that a real video when you cradling him? Is it like,
Yeah.
Did you know he was?
There was a baby. There's a baby. And I didn't know. I'm hungry punching me. I don't know, man. That's how I am with children.
Yeah.
I'm hugging on this guy.
You cradling him, kissing him. Yeah, I didn't know if you actually knew
He's
it.
like 26 years old.
Yeah. I didn't know if you like playing it up for the camera or if you actually didn't know.
No, I did not know.
Just absolutely perfect. So, thanks for everything, Mike Tyson. I love you. The GOAT. And that wraps up the $100 legacy of Mike Tyson discussion. Mouse64, not jerky. I hope you feel you got your money's worth there. I certainly wanted to ensure that you did, that you got value for your $100. I researched it for days, decided what we couldn't do. And there it is. And obviously everyone on Patreon will get to watch this. But I probably won't be putting this on YouTube. It kind of feels wrong, a double dip. I'll ask Mouse's permission. We'll see what he says. Anyway, those are my opinions and those are the facts.